Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable ongoing reality.
Welcome to Transition Radio.
And hello and welcome to Real Talk with the Cummings. My name is Mark Angelo.
And I'm Lena Ariel.
Yes,
and we
welcome.
are here on Sunday.
Yeah, we are. We
So-
found some stuff yesterday. We're always
did.
growing and reading and watching videos and just constantly searching and then getting downloads in the middle of
Yep.
the projection that we do when we are in that dream state and just questions are put in the head. And you know, it's part of being an inquisitive spirit. If we don't ask questions, we don't learn and we don't grow. You know, asking questions and exploring is one of the greatest gifts for growth. You know, and blind faith has gotten us in the mess that we're in.
Blind faith keeps us in the dark.
Yes.
You know, because what? We're blind, right?
Blind
To the
faith,
truth.
yeah, and that's what they want, is it not?
Yeah.
You know,
So Phoenix is here
Yes.
in Gemma Church. We have
Stefan,
Stefan,
Yeah.
and Damien.
Damien, brother.
And yeah, this is awesome. Thank you guys
Yes,
for joining us. And we have a great topic today that we wanted to. I don't know. I was listening to Jacob Israel the other day.
Mhm.
We were listening to Wayne Steiger the other day, and they were talking about the whole concept of Lucifer.
Yeah.
And we just started really kind of digging in and realizing, you know, when Jacob said that Lucifer isn't even mentioned in the Bible, really, it was added later because it is a Latin word.
Right.
So,
And
it
with
was
me,
like,
back
wow.
in 2008 during my awakening, I made a video. It's somewhere in my old videos talking about that the morning star that's been considered to be Jesus was also considered to be Lucifer or Satan. Now,
Yeah.
they say that Lucifer and Satan are two different individuals. You know, there's so many characters to this play that it's very hard to keep up with who's who,
It is.
you know, and it's important for all of us to keep a very inquisitive mind and question, you know, and brainstorm together, because that's the only way we're going to come up with answers. We can't just blindly believe what religion has been trying to teach us, you know, and then besides brainstorming and trying to do the research, because, you know, you got to be careful what you read and who you read it from and who's telling the truth and who's lying. You got to go within, and whatever resonates as truth, whatever tells you, you know, you get that feeling like, yeah, this feels right. And that's what you got to go with.
You do, because I mean, you can't go by the traditions of men. And that's what the Bible is. The Bible is a tradition
Mhm.
of men. I mean, these 66 books that were put together by a group of people who had vested interests and things that they wanted to communicate.
Yes.
You know, I don't know. I think we just need to ask
Yeah,
these
and
questions.
It's very important, and it's not a, what do they call whenever they try to get people, it's blasphemy, and you know, it's like the typical shaming so that people feel bad about exploring and asking questions and trying to dig a little deeper to find out the truth or the various truth, because maybe there's different truths, maybe there's different answers.
Yeah.
So, you know, I found this, and before we go with all the great stuff that you found, and this again is inquisitive. I hope nobody gets offended, anything of that nature. I wanted to see something with Damien had written, because I had asked him something earlier. I am not okay. So no one get angry, no one get whatever. This is just like a family discussion, and we'll take your input, and this is what you know, I believe, and then Lena has her, you know, way of believing, and we kind of try to come somewhere in the middle, either agree or disagree.
We're all discovering these things for ourselves.
Right. So anyway, this is my thought. What if God was actually the evil one and Satan was in fact good? Okay. Now, you know how we're looking at the serpent has been seen as the bad guy,
right.
and then we also know, I think some of us know, that little g in the Bible is not really the prime creator. Right. So after all, God is responsible for 250 million deaths, while Satan is responsible for only 10, all of which God commanded of him. If something bad, and God commanded him to do those 10 killings. So if something bad happens, like an earthquake or a tsunami, we tend to call it an act of God, not an act of the devil. Why is that?
That is really strange, right? Because I mentioned it to you the other day.
Yeah.
This morning I said, you know, when we talk about like random acts of nature, we attribute it to God. We don't say, oh, it was an act of the devil that a hurricane
devil wanted to get rid of some people, so you know,
or that a volcano, or that
good evening, Mickey.
Or a tornado came through, you know, and broke your windshield. Or hail, they call that an act of God.
Yes, right? And Phoenix said if they get hurt, they have been listening to the word of men too long. Yes.
Mark, that was
hello, Crystalite.
Oh, that's your typo. But wow, I knew you would say that, and I was laughing because of your two-spirited nature.
But it's okay because
Madi,
which is what they used to call me as a little girl. I know that sounds weird, a little girl, and you got to, you know, but yeah, and it's Maritza.
Little girl with a beard.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a beard back then. God, my mom would have probably had a,
Didn't you paint? You used to paint on, like with a marker?
When I was a teenager.
Like a teen.
Yeah. But so they used to call me Madi for short, Maritza for long, and Madi for short. So I was like, oh, look, I thought maybe the spirit led you to say that or something. I don't know. But anyway, let's continue here.
Millions of believers claim that God is good, when the evidence from his alleged behaviors and teachings is so comprehensively the opposite. Throughout the Bible, there are numerous accounts of God dishing out divine punishment by way of genocide, plagues, ethnic cleansing, and the like. If the Bible were the word of God, then God supports infanticide, slavery, genocide, torture, and all manner of death, destruction, and suffering. I do not know of any mention of the devil being blamed for such things.
I mean, really, you really have to think about it. I mean, everything we've seen.
Yes, Phoenix, the two natures of God.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's our
what
point.
We're talking about.
So who's dual nature? You know, it's a dual nature. I mean, don't we have a good and a bad in us? You know, the devil and the angel on our shoulder, you know? So, yeah, I mean, we see all these things taking place, you know, from the flood, who he killed innocent little babies. I mean, what do babies have to be blamed for? You know, they haven't even began life yet. But during that flood, how many people got killed?
Know, there's a baby, a mama holding her baby, and then Noah looking out at the ark, over the ark, and going, nope.
Yep.
Can't save you.
Yeah, Mickey says it reminds her of yin and yang. Exactly. We are living in a duality world. Now, I think religion has kind of divided the two to create fear. Let's read on. What father would have his own son, a good man, by all accounts, brutally tortured and murdered so that the bad people could be let off their crimes? If the answer is that God loves us all and wants us to be forgiven, why did he not just do that? You know, just, you're forgiven, my children. Why insist of bloodthirsty crucifixion first? Everything is about sacrifices, killing, you know, drowning people. Was it Sodom and Gomorrah, when people turned around, they all turned to stone? I mean, everything was like, gosh, can we do anything right?
Pretty vicious.
Yeah, pretty vicious stuff.
I mean, there was one scene in the story when the children of Israel were in the wilderness, where the ground opened up and sucked people down.
Or the Red Sea parted and then killed a bunch. I mean,
Egyptian soldiers.
Geez, you know, violent, aren't we? And let's see, that's your fight. It is within. The ark was a spaceship. I believe that. Yes, some sort of.
God, who would deny us this knowledge, has, according to believers, punished the whole of mankind in perpetuity for this original sin, as well as punishing all species of Snake, randomly, not the amphibians,
not just the snakes.
Not a newt.
Yep.
The newt got away with it. Right?
Yeah.
The gecko, the chameleon.
Yeah, chameleon, yep. Alligators.
The Gila monster.
The Gila monster, the alligators.
And the snapping turtle.
Yes.
Forevermore by removing their legs.
I think they're faster now they don't have legs.
I don't think the snake's complaining.
I don't think so. I think the snake likes to kind of like, they're pretty fast.
God, who supposedly can cure all things by invoking miracles, chooses not to, except for a few demonstrations of his alleged power, by curing one leper victim rather than eliminating leprosy altogether. He will feed 5,000 with a loaf and a fish, but will not eliminate starvation and hunger, and make a blind man see, but yet leave countless others still blind.
Yeah, let's see if we have any shared. Hi, Tabo again. Hit like, family, share. Yes, hit like, share, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. You know, if you like what we're doing, you know, we do have a blog, and there's also a PayPal on our. If you go to the About page, you know, no pressure. If you like, and you know, what does Phoenix say? Go ahead.
Okay.
We're
gonna, we have a lot of reading. So.
Well, you usually do that. So the underlying premises of Stockholm Syndrome is the captor convinces the captive that he is capable of ending their life and is willing to do so. The captives believe it is safer to align with their captor and endure their captivity than to resist and face death. How does this compare to Christianity? 2 words. Pascal wager, being God-fearing, is a staple of classical Christian practices.
Phoenix says, 7 cows were killed by my house as a small child. They took all their blood and organs, and there was no cuts in their bodies. Men in black were there too.
Wow.
And Crystallite said, Phoenix, I've seen UFOs, but who knows who was behind the wheel? And Mickey says, oh, hi, Mickey. Mickey's joining us.
Yes, she joined us earlier. I said hi to her.
Okay. I am the alien.
Yes, so am I. I'm from Mars.
And Crystallite says, wow.
Yep.
Another characteristic of Stockholm Syndrome is the captive's view the captor as being benevolent simply by virtue of his lack of malevolent actions. And they are willing to overlook malevolence on the captor's part if some kindness is shown.
So Satan is the only deity who truly stands for free will. God threatens us with punishment for not adhering to his wishes, but Satan tells us that we should enjoy our lives and be happy and free to do what we think is right. Now, I'm not condoning, this is, you know, it's like looking at and investigating apples for apples, you know, lots to think about and to explore. Is God both good and evil? Or are we worshiping a God that is not our real prime creator? You know?
Gotta ask the question.
I know you do, because it's like, you know, you always like when you read the Bible, you get totally confused. It's like, wait a minute, he tells us that he loves us, but then he's like, you know, sending plagues and just destroying
but
us.
that's just because God's ways are higher than our ways.
Oh yeah, so
that's
we are not to question, you know, and you know, he decides to wipe out an entire whatever and just leave man Noah and his family, just restart the whole thing. I mean, it's just, you got to question these things.
I know.
You really do.
You don't have, you know, I mean, there's just no ability to just be objective to this whole thing.
Right.
You
and
know,
Stefan says, I eat aliens.
For breakfast.
Yes.
Yeah. You are not. You are a savant from the planet Pluto because 3 planets were destroyed. That's why you got those lovely shots to dumb you down. Look into it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. When I was a kid, I used to say I was from Mars because I couldn't relate to anybody. And I guess that was the first planet that kind of popped in my head. But then everybody started calling me Martian, which wasn't very good.
Were you green?
I wasn't green
today.
I'm green today, but I wasn't green back then.
Is that because you're Martian?
No, that's because this is what I wanted to wear today.
Oh,
but, you know,
it's okay.
So I found some stuff on Wikipedia. It's not a lot, just a little bit here. But it's interesting because I'm sure that people have been arguing about this since the beginning of time. Tertullian accuses Marcion of Sinope, the first major heretic of Christianity.
Gotta love Cuba.
Yeah, in the 1st century, that he held that the Old Testament was a scandal to the faithful and accounted for it by postulating that Jehovah was a secondary deity, a demiurge who was God in a sense, but not the supreme God.
He was just rigidly just. He had his good qualities, but he was not the good God who was Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. The church condemned his writings as heretical.
And so John Arizen in 1909 in the Catholic Encyclopedia in 1913 mentions that Eusebius accused Apelles or something like that, the 2nd century AD Gnostic, of considering the inspired of Old Testament prophecies to be not a god, but an evil angel. It gets better.
So Stephen says, Stefan, Satan is computer beast 666 and according to scripture disguises himself as an angel of light. Lucifer. Damien writes, I remember singing Listen and Obey, Jehovah, obey, obey.
Yes,
obey.
I grew up as a Jehovah Witness. So.
Crystal Light says, I've never worshiped the God of the Bible. The one I learned was vengeful. I always knew it wasn't right and felt wrong within my heart. Now it makes sense, though. I didn't know why I felt that way.
And I felt kind of the same way, too. I always thought, it's not my God. That's why I couldn't continue being a Jehovah Witness, because it didn't make any sense to me. It was like, this is not my God, you know?
And this is for another show, Stefan, because we don't want to go off into this, but are you a walk-in Mark? You know,
we had a show about that.
Yeah.
We did have a show the other day about that.
But I'm saying this topic is not really something we want to pursue at this point in time.
But we did have a show. I don't know if you missed it, but there's a walk-in show that we talk about that there. And I don't want to.
Phoenix says, men are from Mars. This was made for the human race, not them. Look into it. That is why they want to get back so bad. They won't. It's like Phoenix has like this great book of knowledge.
I know. It's awesome.
A scroll. And Crystalite said, the God I had within me was an all-loving, never angry or vengeful. It felt so wrong hearing words of the Bible.
Because the Bible is written by men, and men are vengeful and angry. So how else are they going to depict God but like them? God didn't create them in their image. They created themselves in the image of God. No, they created God in their image.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Satan is a flying fiery serpent, says Michael Murphy. And Tony is with us.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Tony. The Elohim shot the morning star Lucifer out of the sky, and it went down splitting and sputtering. And it is a star. Okay. I brought it up because you said you're from Mars. We did a whole show on it. Yeah. We do like.
We think we definitely are walking, but we have a show talking about that. And yeah, I've never felt like I was from this planet at all. I died when I was 1 year old, and they brought me back, and things were never the same.
Hegemonius, 4th century, accuses the Persian prophet Mani, founder of the Manichaean sect in the 3rd century AD, identified Jehovah as the devil god which created the world, and said that he who spoke with Moses, the Jews and the priests, is the prince of darkness, not the God of truth.
According to the critics, these heretics referred to as Abrahamic God variously as demiurgus, an evil angel, the devil god, the prince of darkness, the source of evil, the devil, a demon, a cruel, wrathful, warlike tyrant, Satan, and the first beast of the book of Revelation. I totally resonate with that. I totally believe that the God of this world, that the God that we are taught about in the Bible is, for all sense and purpose, Satan, you know? And Prime Creator, you know, maybe Prime Creator does also have a duality within him and her. After all, they're, you know, if Prime Creator created all these other angels and sons of whatever, and they're taking after Big Daddy, could very possibly be that God probably has both of those characteristics. Now, we like to label things good and evil or bad and good. And who's to say that we could categorize something good or bad? Because even bad things serve a purpose in our lives. So I think we just need to stop judging things, judging ourselves, judging each other, putting things in a box and, oh, that's evil, oh, that's satanic, or that's, and just realize that everything has a purpose. Fire keeps you warm, cooks your food, and it could kill you.
That's right.
So That's what I think of that.
So can snow.
Yeah. Oh,
It
gosh.
can be really fun. And
yes. And you can
really
slip
dangerous.
and break a hip if you slip and slide in it.
Tony said, hey,
Hey,
how
Tony.
are you guys? And then a question mark.
We're doing great.
We're doing awesome.
Awesome.
Actually, thank you very much. We
How about yourself?
had a wonderful breakfast.
Yes, we did. We went out and had our wheat pancake breakfast with sweet potato.
And
toast,
salsa.
And salsa and
New
toast.
Mexico.
Yes. Good stuff.
So Mickey said, my native name is Morningstar. It's always kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, that kind of like Morningstar. I made a video. It's somewhere in my old videos that I talk about that, you know, that it's like, you know. But again, there's no mystery. I mean, in my opinion, so, you know, maybe Prime Creator is not as psychopathic as the reptilian god.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because, you know, it's like I look at God. We're talking about this today during breakfast, that we want to put all this humanistic characteristic in God, that he loves us.
Yeah, all this feeling,
romanticizing, you know, and we are the ones that have the five senses, and we're the ones that have these feelings. But love, you know, when we try to break down what love is, in my opinion, love is being able to be one with something else. You know, it's like I made the example that when you plug in, you have an electrical system and you turn on the light, and the light is one with the electricity that allows that beautiful white light to flow. That to me is an act of love. There's no feeling involved, but there's this unity, this oneness. And I know it's not a great example, but you know, when two people come together, you know, and they're sharing their essence and their love, it's not, you know, you do feel romantic love and you do feel this lust and this attraction, but you know, when the years pass by and the attraction is no longer there because you're old and wrinkled and fat and everything else, there's a different type of love that sets in, and there's this unity. You work as a team, so that union, that cohesiveness, that coexisting, that beautiful dance that we do together, that's love. But you know, so
yeah,
I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
Stefan says, I've met a few Martians. Crystalite says, Catholicism is very God-fearing.
yes,
my grandfather was terrified to die because he really felt his sins would be judged and have punishment. When we took him off life support, I told him who our real father is, and I know he heard me.
Yeah, because we've been taught to fear, but you know, I think the real God still has maybe that anger and all that stuff that the other demiurges have, but I think the big cojones has a better handle on his or her anger spurts, or they're more self-actualized, because that's what we as humans are here to learn how to do, self-actualize, you know, to be able to integrate our emotions and create that beautiful yin and yang flow, so that we're not or too, you know, so we know how to do it, so it's healing, so it's perfect, so it's not destructive.
I wanted to, you know, share a little story, personal story of mine. When my father was passing away, about a week before he died, he almost died in bed back on the Sunday before that Friday when he actually passed away. And that Sunday, we gathered around his bed. He was being tormented. He was in pain. Like he was like really like, you know, like being like really freaked out. And he was moving around in bed, and he was just very like, he was yelling, and he was combative. And yeah. And we all like were, you know, at the time I was a fundamental Christian. I was like praying in tongues, and my mom is praying, and we're holding hands, and, you know, all this, and finally settled down. He never passed away that night, obviously. He made it for almost another week, but I think that he was really wrestling with you know, death. Like with death, and then that sense of like, am I going to hell, you know, for how I've been? And I think later he realized the truth, you know, that
make peace.
It wasn't going to be suffering. It was going to be a beautiful transition to another existence, you know.
And that combative nature also kicks in. Was he on medication?
He was on morphine.
Okay, because that could happen, medication induced. I've worked with a lot of hospice patients, end life, and they're in so much drugs that they do become combative, and they do have hallucinations and all sorts of stuff. But
wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wait. So Eric said, I do believe this world is a matrix.
Oh, definitely. No doubt about that. And Tony says, I have a great thing happen this morning. This song came on today. Never heard of this in this life, and yet I started singing it perfectly like I've known forever.
Wow. It's like a download.
Like a download, yeah.
Moses struck the rock and failed. I told you about the rock that walked with the prophets, Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Betty McLean, she joins us. Hi, Betty.
Hey, Betty.
The universe is infinite. Father created all. Aliens are not alien to him. No one will know all the lyrics to the song till the dance is over.
Exactly. And like I said earlier in the show, we go all, speculate. We go have our theories and our ideas and our beliefs. And it's good. It's good that we all share this, and no need to, disagree. We could agree to disagree and share and see where, we could come into some sort of middle ground. And if we can't, we agree to disagree. But it's important to put it all out there.
Richie joins us as well.
Hey,
Richie, hi. Intentions are good, are bad, or good.
Yeah, it can be. And Stephen says, Jesus in the book of Revelation is the offspring of Stella, Mary's queen of the sea mother, Mary, which makes the guardian angel that Paul had confrontations with, Jesus, the prophet of Allah. And again, I respect everybody's views and opinion. When I hear, there's something that really happens to me when I hear all these biblical blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And again, no disrespect to anyone. That's how you interpret things. But to me, I just hear wah, 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 wah. And it's just like my heart, my center truth knowledge goes, pass. I don't know why. Since I was a little kid, and my grandmother would try to take me to Jehovah's Witness Bible study, and it's just like it's to me, it's just so scripted. Scripted. Storylines. I mean, if you read the Bible in one chapter of the book and you read another chapter of the book, it contradicts what the other chapter is trying to say, and it's just so confusing and so. Do I believe that the Bible has a purpose? Of course. Reading it, you might get something out of it. I believe it's written in codes, because I believe that they did that on purpose, because I believe that it would not be allowed to fully say, well, this is what happened, because mankind have always been arguing with one another. Yeah. So they have to code things in there so that it's not burned, destroyed, or altered,
Wow. We're not going to get through this show.
Okay.
We are called the Morning Star people. That is why they chased us, Phoenix says. And Michael Murphy says, the rock that walked with Christ was Peter, a.k.a. Simon. That's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
Eric Guffey, true God loves all and didn't choose one race of people as his favorite.
Very true.
And Tony says, lust is what I am fighting with at the moment.
Don't fight anything, though. Like, I believe that when you get a feeling, a desire, you sit with it. You may even entertain it. You may indulge in it. See how it makes you feel. If you feel shameful about it, if you don't feel right about it, then you have to, revisit that. And then you're able to let it go. Let it go. Because it's, the forbidden fruit is forbidden. So you want it, But once you engage in it and see that it doesn't really bring you that much joy, then you realize that, hey.
Oh, well, we have a friend from Australia, Marie Latella. Is a new viewer. Hello from Australia. Hello from the land of summer.
Yes.
Right? Right now it's summertime there, right?
Well, it's winter and snow.
Is it summer there?
Yeah.
I'm thinking it is. Mickey says, I've heard the name is great honor, but my Christian programming.
Exactly. It's that programming that we need to unprogram. We can't grow if we continue to hold on to old beliefs.
Yes, Tony is wrestling with lust. I haven't acted on it with other people, women, but I've had the thoughts, etc. Yeah, it's our human nature.
It's our human nature. And that's another thing. It's like, okay, so we get this nature of sinning, and we want to do things because we're curious little kids, but yet we get punished for it. So it's like, well, we're experimental beings. That's what we do. We like to get into trouble. And so we're going to get punished.
It's like telling a 3-year-old not to go play and do stuff that they don't.
Yeah, it's like my father. He would put something, let's say, like a little thing in the table. And instead of like childproofing the home, he wanted to have this power struggle. It's like, no dog ahead, so don't touch that. And, you know, you're a little kid experimenting, going, you know, whacks me across the room. My mother's like, oh my God, he just killed her. You know, it's like, why put the darn thing there if you don't want me to touch it?
It's true.
You know,
anything good can be used for bad. And from what I see, evil typically does flip anything good over. Crystal light. And when it goes like that, it's like, and then Stefan said, Hermes plus Aphrodite is Mars plus Venus. The child is Cupid, desire /
erotic love. I love mythology. That was one.
And Damien agrees with you, whatever the point was that you were making a few minutes ago. Crystal, I'd love to share my story with you sometime. Do you share your number, or is it an email better for you guys? Yes, you can always call in.
Call in during the show, or if you want to do a personal call, email us or text us and let us know who you are after the show, or email us at transitionradioshow@gmail.com. Yes.
And yeah, transition.
Or if you want to be on the show and share it with everybody, we could work that out too. And that would be
absolutely just
by sending me an email, so I could send you the attachment where you have to fill out the information and all that good stuff.
Oh, and I just deleted it.
Did you? No, it probably went down.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. I was like, oh.
No, it's when you hit thing.
Okay, so then we need to continue.
Well, I don't have anything else.
Much to do.
The other is just the end time manifestation moment.
Phoenix says, they all just stole the computer out of the police car on our res with all our information in it. 2 days later, they returned it. Trust no one. You study.
Yep.
Why can't you? I see the post. Please help this old lady. I don't know. Maybe sometimes you need to refresh.
Yeah, refresh the thing, or go to the little arrow thing. YouTube is strange sometimes.
JB Watts joins us.
Hey, JB. Fear nothing, question everything. Very true.
And Moha says, hi, I'm Muslim. Speak little English.
Well, welcome to the show,
Thank
Moha.
you for joining us.
Sorry, we don't speak. What kind of language does Muslims speak?
Arabic.
Arabic?
Yeah.
We speak Spanish and English. And we're thinking about maybe putting on a Spanish show once a week.
In my broken Spanish.
Well, mine isn't that great either.
Yours is better. Way better.
Well,
Phoenix, are you in top chat? Try live chat instead.
Yes.
Oh, wait. Maybe that's right. Thank you, Mickey, for that.
Thank you. Yes, that's helpful now.
Okay. And too much info cramped into a small sentence, says Stefan.
Yes. Sometimes.
Hello, beautiful souls. Hello, Emily.
Hello, Emily. Welcome.
And Phoenix says, that's what men's word says. That was not the rock that walked with them. And fallen chosen one.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yes. It is good for us to read the Bible as it is. That's an open sore for us.
Yeah.
To hear that.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, really? Which Bible?
Which one? What translation? What religion? Yeah.
Crystalite says, I've been reading the Bible with Wendy, and hers has the older wording. It is hard for me. I only hear wow, 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 like you explained.
Wah, 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 wah. Yeah.
And
then they make you feel like, okay, something is wrong with me, because some people go,
and you shoo it
when people tell you, read the Bible and read it with an open heart, and it'll speak to you. So I'm like, okay, heart's open, right?
And so big ass, so big ass,
I must be defiled. What is it? I must have a defect or something, because it's just not, I get more out of meditating and connecting with my higher self, and I get the downloads that I need.
And then I remember reading when I was a little kid, like 8. I showed it to my mom because it was in the Song of Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was chapter 8.
Right.
It said, "Oh, that I were nursed by my mother's breasts or something. I was like, Mom, what does this mean? And she's
Your mom's
like,
going, "Hey, your mail." Do not read that.
That's like porn, you know? It's like, God.
Well, the Bible has a lot of
lots of
violence and you know,
bloodshed.
They tell you to beat your kid, and
a king telling a woman to split her baby in half.
And I mean, it's just like, people, Bible written by a bunch of syphilis, you know. Yeah, I'm not gonna go there, but.
And Tony says, some are here in New Zealand too. Well, meant to be.
Wow.
In the Quran, Allah claims to be the Lord of Sirius, Stefan says.
It's a war of the gods. There's all these gods, and everybody wants to be the leader. Kind of like what's happening in our world today, you know? Everybody wants to.
And Phoenix says, Allah is the master of the universe. God is the moon god. Sin, men, let him in.
That sounds like a song.
Oh, wait. Betty says something. Does anyone believe that the original relationship between the Father and Satan could ever be restored? Could he be forgiven? Could the Father and Satan be the same?
That's part of this show, you know, the duality nature of God. We're going to go into some material that we found. I truly believe, again, God of the Bible is actually Satan, and the actual religion has created that duality to make people think they're two different individuals. I believe that Prime Creator also has the ability of having, you know, a stern side, a vengeful side, and a loving side. But he or she, which is probably both gender, is self-actualized. You know, they're advanced, so they don't have feelings like we do. You know.
Now, the book that we're going to be pulling our information from is actually a book written back in 1924.
Look at that.
Would believe it. And it's called The Biography of Satan, or a historical exposition of the devil and his fiery dominions. And this book has been around, right? It's been around. So I'll begin. Thought has a history. The intellectual life of the present is the heritage of the beliefs and the doubts, the hopes and the fears of the past. We think over again the thoughts of our fathers, for such variations only are due to broader culture. And this broader culture is the product of intellectual variations.
Thought varies in the direction of growth, but the change of thought is, for the most part, a slow process. Beliefs are tenacious, and no beliefs are more tenacious than religious beliefs.
This is because religion has to do with gods and devils, because it presumes to tell man of his place in and relation to the world, and the whence and whither of his being, because it teaches the necessity of holding certain beliefs regarding these things, and because it appeals fundamentally to man's emotions, to his hope for happiness, and fear of pain in another world.
And I think it's part of the God gene that we have inside, that Stockholm Syndrome, that need to feel that there's something that we need to worship. These features of religious beliefs give religion a universal interest. All men are interested in religion. They are interested in it because it has so largely dominated the life of humanity, because for countless of ages, mankind lived and thought and suffered almost wholly within the confines of religious sanctions, because every step the race has taken in the direction of intellectual progress has been taken in defiance of religious authority, because the whole range of scientific culture of our time regarding man and the universe is a challenge to, and is challenged by, the religious notion that have come down to us from the distant past.
According to the Christian and the deist, the theosophist and the spiritualist, the agnostic and the atheist, are equally interested, though from different points of view, in the story of humanity's religious beliefs, the history of the world's religious thought.
Without a knowledge of man's past, his present cannot be understood. Yesterday beliefs are keys to the doors of today's thoughts. From what yesterday religion was, the religion of today has become, and on the foundation we lay down, whether flimsy or secure, the superstructure of tomorrow's thought will rise to challenge the winds of change and to be tested by the stressful storm of science.
At the bottom of the religion of the Christian world has even been and is the belief in an eternal fiery hell presided over by a devil, the prince of the fiends. The church has ever taught and still teaches that the faithful, the devout, at best but a mere few, will be chosen to share the eternal glory of God's presence in heaven, and that the countless billions of unregenerate and unredeemed will be tortured forever in the flames of hell under the everlasting surveillance of the devil's malicious leer.
Now, isn't that like appealing to some people who want to be part of the club, who want to be in the inn, whether you're in school and you made it into the glee club or you made it into this, that, and the other? It's very typical, and religion uses this as a bait.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
So the atrocious doctrine, the doctrine of eternal punishment for unbeliever, has been, in every age, the mainspring, the driving force of Christianity. Without it, they're nothing. Armed with that belief, the church launched herself upon the Roman Empire, destroyed the pagan religions, extinguished pagan culture, overthrew classical civilization, and ushered the world into the noisome gulf of the Dark Ages, and burned many witches at the stake.
Yeah. Fired with that belief, the church filled the world with religious hate, with fanaticism, with intolerance of science and reason. Urged to desperation by that belief, the church established the Inquisition, filled the Christian world with spies and informers, and for a long succession of generations, imprisoned and stretched on racks and burnt alive the noblest, the most progressive men and women of our race, because they had brains enough to think and courage enough to express their thoughts.
We would have been burned at the stake back in the day, you know? The belief in eternal punishment gave the world 1,000 religious wars. It put a ban on investigation. It gagged honest thought, kind of like what's happening today. It made ignorance universal and progress impossible. It put the world beneath the feet of priests. For more than 1,500 years, the insane notion that a hell of flames awaits the soul of unbelievers in another world did more than any other single thing to transform this world into kind of a hell.
Thundered from millions of pulpits over and over again during all the centuries of Christianity, that heartless belief filled the lives of men and women and children with an awful fear, a fear frequently amounting to terror. I personally experienced it, a withering fear that only recently began to pass away. So, I mean, examples were...
Only conceive the poor wretch in flames. See how his tongue hangs between his blistered lips, how it excoriates and burns the roof of his mouth as though it were a firebrand. Some of these English words are like...
Behold him crying for a drop of water. I will not picture the scene. Suffice it for me to say that the hell of hells will be to thee, dear sinner, the thought that it is to be forever. Thou shalt look upon there on the throne of God, and on it thou shalt see written forever.
I mean, what do a lot of Christians love to do? You're going to burn in hell. You're going to taste the fire river of, what is that thing called?
The lake of fire.
The lake of fire, and blah, 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 because they think that, oh, they're not going to go there. They're so perfect. But, you know, they love to point fingers. Do we want to check the thing here? No. And if these representations are not true, if the devil is only a myth and hell but a figure of speech, the authority of the New Testament falls to the ground. With the devil and hell gone, salvation loses its meaning, the Savior is left without an office, the atonement remains unperformed, the wrath of God resolves itself into a priestly fiction.
Christianity is seen not to be a divine revelation, but a gross superstition that has for nearly 2,000 years deceived, betrayed, and martyred mankind.
The author of this book has performed for his fellow men the signal service of pointing out to them the fact that Christian doctrine of a devil and a hell were utterly unknown to the ancient Jews and are nowhere taught in the Old Testament. Nowhere.
Nowhere. You won't find it. Mm-hmm. He shows that these doctrines were derived from the mythologies of the heathen nations that surrounded the Jewish people. He shows that these doctrines were derived from the mythologies of the heathen nations. He shows that the God of the Old Testament and the devil of the New Testament, that is to say, our Father, which art in heaven, the God whom Christians worship, and the Lord of hell, the God whom Christians fear, were originally twin brothers known by the same titles. and that this God and this devil were actually Chaldean sun gods.
He shows further that the Christian notion of the kingdom of heaven, of the bottomless pit, of the lake of fire and brimstone, and other such ideas were borrowed by Babylonian and Persian sources.
In other words, he shows that the Christian ideas as to the future worlds of bliss and torment were not made known to man by divine revelation, but rather were borrowed by founders of Christianity from the rich treasure house of pagan mythology.
Thought has a history. Christianity belongs to the natural history of thought. Its origin are found in the development and migration of mythology, and humanity is outgrowing it today because thought illumined with knowledge is moving to a higher plane, to the altitude of science and rationalism.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm going to go to some of our questions and stuff like that, but I think it's very, very interesting, you know, to posit this fact that maybe things are not how we thought they were told to us to be.
Religion was created as part of control. I've always said that. You know, they wanted to keep the masses enslaved, and what better way than to create fear, to create servitude, and to create the business that they have created.
Oh, was Stefan trying to call? I'm sorry.
When we were reading,
yeah. Well, sometimes I just I don't open the app. It's the phone app. Yeah, you can try again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can try again. So it says, Betty, it will be restored. A Comfort says, all love to everyone, evening. So A Comfort joins us. Hi, thank you for joining us. Mickey says, I mean, oh gosh, I hate it when it does that. Gosh. Oh, it's like, we're just kind of losing it, babe.
Yeah.
There's lots of questions. I mean, it's all about the love and forgiveness. I always have a hard time with that. 5 years now, I've read your book. You can have it. They messed with it bad. Phoenix. Yeah. We've got a lot of reading.
Hi, Margolin. I caught you live. Glad I caught you live. Yes, she
Awesome.
did, Carmen Morgado.
Way to go, Carmen.
Hey, she said,
She said it.
Yes. And Phoenix says, God show you in your dreams. That is why I said to write them down. Definitely.
Crystalline says, I have a Bible that simplifies it greatly. I get this one. Thank the Father. I feel like when I had my NDE, I was given the most important answers. Everything is fun to learn, but not necessary. You look like the actress on Knots Landing. Okay. She said, that's an old show.
I don't know. I remember hearing the name, but I don't remember the show.
Yeah. God is Satan, fallen, chosen one. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my God. How can you say that?
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
Let's not go off the deep end. And we're not saying anything that we haven't already looked at.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm going to go to my notes here. Page 19 to 24, page 25 to 28. It's interesting.
The God of the Bible is not prime creator. The God of the Bible, in my opinion, and the opinion of many who are awakening to the truth, is that the God of the Bible and Satan are one and the same. Hyperventilate. Take a deep breath. I understand, but that's okay.
Okay. We now propose to submit to the reader a brief and condensed history of the ancient notions respecting the origin and infernal operations and machinations of that imaginary monster, counterfoe, and archenemy to all human bliss and blessedness, known as the devil, Satan, the serpent, dragon, etc., but for whom we think a more appropriate designation would be the rival of omnipotence, or omnipotence second.
Here, let the reader note it and emphasize it as a remarkable fact that God, not the devil, was primarily believed to be the author of evil.
Whoa, let's hear that again.
All right, repeat. that God, not the devil, was primarily believed to be the author of evil. And if you go back to the show and listen to what I've read about God's responsible for 250 million deaths, the devil only 10, and those were assigned by God for him to do, by the Oriental nations, and that his doctrine is taught in the Christian Bible, the word evil and devil seem to have been originally synonymous terms that later bring, as we are told, a contradiction of the word do evil.
Contraction.
A contraction of the word do evil, and hence represent a mere personification of evil.
And there is abundance of evidence accessible to prove that the conception of evil existed long before the devil was discovered or even thought of. So should his devilish majesty set up a claim, or any of his friends, for him as being the originator of or author of evil, he would not be suited. He would be non-suited in an open court. He was an afterthought.
It was not until the second edition of creation was struck off that his long-tailed lordship was thought of or allowed to have an existence except among snakes. He was finally gotten up as helpmeet for the priest, it being discovered that it would require the threefold power. First off, the drawing cord of love from the foundation of the infinite goodness. Second, the draw game of the priest upon the pockets of the people. And third, the howling of the serpent, alias the dragon, alias the devil, like a roaring lion to get a sinner into heaven.
We've stated that the devil was not thought of in the original creation, and how the people were restrained from the commission of universal crime and carnage without the fear of the imaginary ghost of old King Beelzebub. Before their eyes is a mystery of godliness, which we suppose only the spiritually minded can comprehend. That is, those who are sufficiently spiritually minded to understand the things that belong to the kingdom, or to see the devil where there is none.
There is abundance of historical testimony to prove that no nation in its earlier history, not even God's holy people, had an idea or conception of the existence of a prime originator of evil, or temper of souls, separate and apart from God himself. While it is evident that no possible advantage or end could have been served by the existence of such a being, while the people were ignorant of it and conception foreign to their thoughts.
Hence the presumption must be that he was not yet born or hatched. Strange too, when according to Orthodox showing, that was an age of the world in which it was all important and indispensably necessary that he should have been incarnated and established upon his throne, in the fact that extensively advertised, because we're told that the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, according to Genesis 8:21. And hence the devil was needed to scare them on the right track.
The straight and narrow way that leadeth unto Jordan, as we are virtually taught, this is high calling, the great end of his creation. It certainly then was a great blunder, a serious desiderata, something like that, to omit his creation. Yeah, to omit his creation at the start of it created, to neglect to make it known.
Good and evil were primarily regarded as only different degrees of the same thing, and both as emanations from an all-wise and perfect God, the author of everything good and bad, whose residence then by many was believed to be the Son. And let it be noted here that the first conception of evil and a devil was inferred from the violent and destructive operations of the elements of nature, not now classified with or regarded by anyone as moral evils, and which it was known that human beings could have no agency in producing. And here dates the first rude conception of a devil, which simply means a destroyer, not of souls, but of natural objects.
Yeah, I mean, you know, even in Genesis, when the snake appears, there is no stating that that snake was Satan. It wasn't even, I mean, didn't think God would know what Satan looked like, and he would have said, "What are you doing here, Satan? How dare you have, done blah, blah, blah."
What are you in my garden for?
And supposedly no evil could stand before the presence of God.
Right.
So here was a snake, and people are automatically assuming that the snake was Satan. Our next and second proposition is that the earliest ancestor of the Jewish race recognized God as being the author of evil by virtue of being the source of everything.
The sequence had to be admitted to maintain a logical consistency. God could not be the author of all things without being the author of evil. The doctrine of future rewards and punishments constituted no part of the ancient Jewish creed, simply because, as we would naturally infer, all human actions, both good and bad, were regarded as proceeding from their God, Jehovah, or as being inspired by the great breath, as they express it in the Talmud.
So, but we are not left to mere inference from the omission of afterlife punishment, from wrongdoing, from their creed, that they regarded God as the author of evil. But we have it and taught it in the most explicit and unequivocal language in their own inspired writing. Read and mark well this inspired utterance of the great and leading prophet of the Jews. I form light and create darkness. I make peace and I create evil.
Whoa. I make peace.
And I create evil.
I,
the Lord, do all these things.
That's Isaiah, people.
Yeah.
That's, if you want to look it up.
Yeah, we're not making that one up.
Could language be more explicit than this? And the prophet Amos asks, shall there be evil in the city? And the Lord hath not done it? And Job speaks in the same strain and puts forth the same doctrine. We received good at the hands of the Lord. Shall we not also receive evil? And Solomon also carries a principle or doctrine so far as to declare, the Lord hath made even the wicked for the doing of evil, as it should read. But our translation makes it read, the day of evil.
You know, and aren't we created in God's image?
Yeah, so we have the snake.
We have both.
And
inside.
the dove.
Yeah, both inside of us. And I truly believe that it's just God. I think that's religion that has split the two, just as it split Adam and Eve, where they were once one, and then these reptilians separated us. You know, I mean, a lot to think about. Let it not be said that it is merely physical evil that are referred to in these texts, for besides these, there are numerous other texts which go to show that there was not a crime known or perpetrated at that day, but what Jehovah himself is represented as committing or approving, and thereby assuming the authorship of it. For example, he puts a lying spirit into the mouth of a prophet. See King James, 1 Kings 22, so that all the falsehoods they told were his and not theirs.
And the prophet Jeremiah goes further and says that God lied virtually with his own lips. Quote, wilt thou be altogether to me as a liar? O Lord, thou hast deceived me, and I am greatly deceived. Jeremiah 22:7. And Ezekiel caps the climax. Quote, if a prophet is deceived, I, the Lord, have deceived that prophet. Now, as deception and falsehood are synonymous terms, it follows that God stands charged here with being a liar, i.e. the father of lies in the Jewish system, as the devil was afterwards in the Christian system.
He is frequently represented as getting mad, Deuteronomy 1:37, and swearing, and also committing or approving of theft and stealing,
Exodus 3:2,
of robbery, Exodus 7:36, of murder, Deuteronomy 13:2, and in fact of every crime known in that barbarous age.
Now it is easy to perceive from this why the Jews had no devil. They had nothing for him to do.
God did it all for them.
The Lord did it all. He perpetuated the evil as well as achieved the good. And to punish the wicked or evildoer with everlasting fire would have been to build a fire around their own God. And let us remark here that optimism, the belief that everything is ordered for the best, is a doctrine scouted by the Christian church. Yet it certainly is the legitimate inference from the above quoted texts from their own sacred Bible.
So, of course, if every species of crime, evil, and immortality had the divine sanction, it was all right. Ergo, it was for the best. Nor is it the incredible that the Jews, in a state of barbarism and mental childhood, should have no clear conception of a line of demarcation between good and evil, and hence confound and classify them all together. The oldest book in the Hindu Bible evinces the same state of mind and also teaches this doctrine. You want to
wow, yeah. That is, I mean, I know that that's a lot for people to try to
ingest. We'll put the link of that book down below if people want to take a dander and read.
Yeah. God is Satan. Fallen. Very good. Mary. Wow. 29 inches. Oh my gosh. That's a lot.
Oh,
of
that's a lot of snow.
That's a lot of snow.
Way too much snow.
You were to love him and let him go. Stefan says, I don't believe Satan is anything other than the AI God. The world leaders worship Satan. So if you're pro-government, you're pro-Satan.
Okay, so after reading what we read and going back, this book is 19-something on another.
1924.
And plus it states a lot of scripture and clearly understanding that the Jews believed that God was the one responsible. And even God even says that himself for all the evil.
I deceive, I lie.
I'm jealous, I'm this, I'm that,
evil.
I'm going to destroy you. It was God who sent the plagues. It was God who's done all these things. The devil didn't do none of this stuff, you know? So, yeah. I mean, and again, you know, honor everybody's way of thinking, but.
Dismanta. Hi, Dismanta. Satan doesn't make sense. He is a bad person who controls hell, and all bad people go to hell. But if he is so bad, wouldn't he like the bad people and not treat them badly? That's one way of looking at it. But you know, if you don't believe in,
let's break this down. Satan doesn't make sense. Does God make sense? Because some of the stuff that we read in the Bible doesn't really make a lot of sense.
No.
And he is a bad person. What are we defining bad? Because in the beginning of the show, I actually talked about that God is responsible for over 250 million deaths and murders, and Satan only 10. And this hell that we all speak of that we haven't really seen. I mean, I think the only hell that really exists is in our minds and here on earth. I mean, there's no more hell than what we're seeing. We got children starving to death, people murdering and killing each other, things that are happening. They're very hellish in nature. I'm trying to read so that I could answer what she wrote. But if he's so bad, wouldn't he like the bad people and not treat them badly? Who are the bad people? I mean, people
that make mistakes.
Behave in certain ways that might not be of the greatest thing, but I don't believe there's any bad people. I think we're all a byproduct of trauma, of pain, of hurt, of ego. So it's like, that's very typical religious. Bad people. We're good people.
Good, bad.
You know, it's like, that's all part of the religiosity and all part of the drama stage.
I say look into it because I do not want you following me. Follow your own heart.
Oh, and I do. I've never been a follower. I'm always
She said it has us. The only hell is the hell, Phoenix says, you feel when you are removed from God forever. And Mickey says, always receive discernment with wisdom.
Yes.
And she said it gives us scripture reference, Ezekiel 28, 12 through 17. I'm not sure. Lucifer, literally carrier of light, already existent in Roman mythology, was the name used to refer to Venus, the morning star that can be seen close to the horizon before dawn in certain seasons. And the word hell comes from the word perihelion, which is like has to do with the highest place in space, or it was like there's so much more to it, you people. It has nothing to do with the underworld and fire and brimstone.
But again, fear tactics. I mean, that's what religion was created for. You know, I think the religiosity keeps people away from knowing their true selves, and knowing their divinity, and knowing who the true creator is.
So sure, they're saying people hail him like mad, in their own mind. Lucifer and Prometheus have much in common, says she said it. Gemma says, hey guys, thanks so much. My phone is overheating, so I'm going to be gentle and power it off for a while.
Okay. Otherwise, thank you for joining us thus far.
Jehovah the devil and his church, Jesus in the house, 2 kingdoms, Phoenix says. Damien says, well, is it time for a hug yet, family?
Yes, it is. All right. Hug time. Okay, everybody hug. 1, 2, 3. Yes.
All right. I think we cut that a little late. Big hug, Phoenix. Yes.
Yes.
But Satan likes to hide, God of 1,000 names. One may choose to embody the archetypal character of Satan if one wishes.
Yeah, because we have both in us. We have that duality, that ability, to be loving and caring and nurturing, and we have that ability to be mean and war hungry and violent, and you know, it's part of what is, and we are created in His image. You know.
Okay, so then, where is it? Oh,
so yeah, I mean, these are thoughts that you know need to be addressed, need to be looked at. Blind faith, getting totally offended doesn't really solve anything, because you know, religion, like politics. I mean, do you guys believe in your politicians? Do you really believe in your politicians? Seriously, anything they say, anything they do, you think the government cares about you? Do you know what the word government means? Governmente, mind control.
So Phoenix says, yes, this is true. You guys are right.
Yeah.
And then Betty goes, wasn't Lucifer at one time Father's favorite angel? I mean, someone had to hold the office of evil. Evil men may be left without a leader in the end, could be Father's ultimate trick on evil. And we're going to get into that too, where we're going to talk about the war in heaven and Lucifer's fall and all of that. And it might not be what you think it is,
right,
you know, but we'll get into that in a moment. Twice in history, the Jews couldn't even read their word. The Greeks told them what it said. That's the Romans again. Think about it.
Yep.
Calvin Young says, any advice on how to summon a demon on domestic grounds? I've used Bilson Kraut and sacrifices before to engage with dark spirits.
Don't really get into all
really
that stuff.
Absolutely.
Good luck with that.
Damien says, absolutely, Lena. They make us believe in Santa Claus, then alone what the government's making us believe, and then going on even deeper down the rabbit hole.
Oh my gosh, you get so deep that most people's head would spin. You know, that's that term, rude awakening. And a lot of people start seeing the things unfold before them, and they start unveiling. Their mouth is just going to drop.
Derek's with us.
Hey,
Hi,
Derek. Good
witness.
evening. Good evening, Derek.
It's
Thank you for
always
joining
wonderful
us.
to have Derek with us. I can get past a subscriber call blocking feature on the community forum. Oh, okay. Sorry. I don't know.
Try calling.
Phone's on.
Yeah, try calling.
The phone is on. Just
what is the number again? 575 519
5930.
5930. It's on. It's on. Yeah. And you have not, we don't block anybody.
Everyone needs love, even darkness, Emily says. Love and light to you, Kelvin.
Yes.
Again, two kingdoms, two fathers. Which one do you speak of when you say father? Yeah, well, we're still
now you're
working
getting
on
it.
That.
Yeah.
You're saying with the eyes that every sage has seen with, says Derek Bros.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's when you remove the veil. In my initial awakening in 2008, I brought all these questions up, and everybody thought I was crazy. Then I kind of went back to sleep, you know, because it's kind of lonely to be awoken, especially back in 2008. There was very few people. But, you know, this whole thing that's happened in the past 3.5 weeks has reawoken that, you know, completely. And a lot of it's thanks to you, Derek.
Yes.
The only evidence of the Father, creator of all, is within you, all as Christ was trying to say. Yes.
Bill H says, the God of the Bible, a.k.a. the rat bastard, as Jeffrey would say.
Yeah.
The story in Genesis, Stefan says, is just a narrative that is part of our reality. It has meaning, but not in a literal sense.
And the entire Bible should not be taken in any literal sense, because I believe it's been confused. It's been coded for its protection and for the protection of people. There are other books, in my opinion, that have much more meaning, much more importance, you know.
All with lived backwards is devil. Lived backwards is devil. All within choices you must make. So the word lived is devil. And if you go
if you go out of that sense, the word God is dog.
Yeah, I know. But that's what she said.
Yeah, I know.
In duality, both are required. Balance is needed.
Yes.
Anna says, hey, you all, love you.
Hey, fans, welcome.
Two stories, two kingdoms, two gods. Which one do you follow?
Yes.
Stefan says, he is the one that turns us into tin soldiers marching into a German-style heaven on earth.
Yes. And yes, Phoenix.
Do you want me to continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got more to read here. This is
more to share.
More to share, yeah.
Another proof that the primitive Jews, like some of the earlier heathen nations, had no devil and recognized but one common source for good and evil, regarding both as proceeding from Jehovah, is found in the fact that those names and titles now applied to the devil were by them and other nations primarily applied to the deity, thus evidencing that both characters were formally comprehended in one being, that being Jehovah, God.
And that after another being, the devil, was hatched, creator, conjured up to saddle all the sins of the world on, he will continue to be known and designated by the same names and titles that various nations, including Jews, had used in application to God only, whereas possessing opposite characteristics should have been designated by a name denoting opposite qualities.
The fact is clear, as we shall soon show, that the devil was at first considered a god, and as such was worshipped by several nations, including some of the early Christian sects. And the same is true of Jesus Christ and the devil, but the same titles were applied to each, and evidence that they were both derived in common from the pagan conception of good and evil, virtue and vice, flowing or emanating from the same fountain, which fountain was primordially the sun.
In Exodus 6, God is represented as saying, I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob as God Almighty. Now this God Almighty is found to read in the Hebrew Bible, Baal Shaddai, and in tracing the derivation of Beelzebub, the highest title for or your father, the devil, to its original and analytic form, we find it terminated in Baal Shaddai.
Thus, both are traceable to the same origin. Beelzebub, in its original Chaldean and Phoenician form, is Baal-zebub. Then we have Baal Shaddai, God Almighty, and Baal-zebub, the devil. And on further research, we find that those terms are essentially the same. That is, were originally applied to the same being. Baal, as synonymous with Bel, was the Chaldean name for the Lord dwelling in the sun.
Baal Shaddai was the sun in the zenith of his glory, and Baal-zebub, or Bob, or whatever, the sun while in the sign or constellation of the scorpion. And then there's Belial or Belial, or Chaldean and Phoenician solar title for God. And this is the word or term from which devilish Belial of Christian New Testament is derived. Belial is the Belial lord of the opposite, which means a sign or constellation opposite to the sun of any given point.
Adversary, another satanic title, your adversary, the devil, found in 1 Peter 5:8, is also traceable to the same source. Adversary, being like Belial, a sign at right angles or adverse, adversary to the sun. Paul asks, what concord hath Christ with Belial? I answer the same, that Christ hath no with the Father, all being traceable to one and the same original source. Dragon is another title for the great attorney general of the lower kingdom, and it is found to be synonymous with Baal and Bel.
St. John speaks of that old serpent, which is called the devil and Satan, the great red dragon, with 7 heads and 10 horns and a tail, which drew the third part of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. In Revelation 9,
12
something, Roman numeral
13.
Something. Here, serpent, devil, Satan, and dragon are used as synonymous terms, as nouns in opposition. Now let it be observed that the dragon was worshipping by the Canaanites under the name of Dagon, and Dagon is compounded of Dag, the fish, and On, or one, of the Egyptians' name for the god of the sun or in the sun.
And this On or one is the source to which the Holy One of Israel is traceable. Dragon or Dagon then signifies Dag, the fish, and On or one, the sun, that is the sun in the constellation of the fish. Satan, another of the numerous epithets or titles with which his cloven-footed majesty was honored or dubbed, is from the Babylonian Sathian or Athean, and it is said to mean the word logos, fountain of wisdom, etc. If then Satan is the founder of wisdom, there is some sense and appropriateness, after all, in the scripture injunction, be ye wise as serpents or Satans, and harmless as doves.
And in some consistency, too, may be found, according to this explanation of Satan, in the two apparently incongruous scripture texts, one representing God and the other Satan, as tempting David to number the people. It may seem like a dernier expedient to get rid of a glaring contradiction to make God and the devil both one, but perhaps the end will sanctify that means, and if truth is sometimes stranger than fiction, maybe it not be in this instance.
Another title applied to both God and the devil is that of Father. This is interesting. Christ spoke of my Father in heaven and your father, the devil.
So
Ye are of your father, the devil. John 7:44. It's that Roman numeral thing because it's a book from 1924.
Yeah.
He also referred to a certain class of believers crying, Abba, Father. Well, now, Abba, we are informed, is from Abaddon, which St. John tells us is the Hebrew for Beelzebub, while Apollyon, Latin for Apollo, is the Greek. Revelations 9. Apollo is, however, the Latin for the impersonal sun, solar god. Abba is father, and Don is Lord in the Hebrew. And according to the inspired John the Revelator, the two together is Beelzebub. Abba, Don, Father, Lord, Beelzebub. Rather an opposing title for his snakeship.
Right. We will now notice some of the titles as common to Christ and the devil. Lucifer, suggestive of Lucifer, matches of which it may be presumed his Satanship was the patentee or inventor, if not a common title for the evil one, quote unquote, is at least a very illustrious title. I think the old gentleman was formerly better known by his title than at present.
It is one of the numerous titles, however, by which he was always been known and honored. Isaiah dubs his royal majesty as Lucifer, son of the morning, or as some translators have it, and ours so explain it in the margin, day star, because the word Lucifer actually was never even in the original manuscripts. It was never even a word. The word Latin, it was a Latin word put in by Saint Jerome back in like, I don't know what, in the early 6th century or something.
Lucifer was actually a man.
Well, the story of Lucifer, when, you know, they talk about it in scripture, is referring to the king Nebuchadnezzar and how he was standing on his rooftop one day and he was admiring himself and all the glory of all the things he had done, all the wonders of everything, and how he was considering himself as God. And then this deity struck him down and made him like the beasts of the field. And for like 7 years, this man roamed around the ground and he was cut down.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily signify that there was some war in heaven and that he fell from heaven and that his name was Lucifer and that he was the cherubim and all this stuff. So then Lucifer was son of the day star. Well, now mark the evidence. In Revelation 22:16, it reads, I, Jesus, am the bright and morning star. Then there is just the difference between Lucifer and Jesus that there is between the morning star and the day star, which Bailey's astronomy and Dupois' astronomy of the ancients show to be none at all. They were one and the same star. And this identity in the name of Christ and Lucifer, as well as the reasonableness of designating each a star, is rendered more apparent when we recollect that both were considered the source of light.
Let's get back to some of the things because probably bored.
Are you guys bored?
So let's see.
Because we have 30 watching. I don't think anyone's bored.
Okay.
Well,
I'm just like,
you know, I think this information is important.
Well, you guys
I don't know
mind if we
about you
continue
guys.
reading, or do you want us to take some more
She
comments?
said it says duality can either swing like a manic pendulum or be aware of the balance required for clarity.
Yes,
within.
and I think that's very important right there. The duality, we're here to learn how to dance that dance, flow with that yin and the yang.
Global Witness says, if you judge this, then you are eating from his tree of good and evil.
Exactly.
Yes, I agree, she said. Phoenix says, I know more than you realize, Derek, but I love watching the awakening of all. Peace, sir.
Stephanie says, I'm talking about the bodies we incarnate in. They crave sex. Well, the body's full of senses. We have 5 senses, and the senses, food, sex, rock and roll, all that stuff, you know, appeals to the body, this antenna, you know, that we have. Yes, Mark, I just made this point today and got lambasted for it.
Well, I don't know what Phoenix is meaning. Ba and Ka and Ankh Please answer this. Ankh is the king of the dead emblem, Stefan says. Fallen chosen one. If the snake wasn't the devil, then who was it?
Just a snake. And it wasn't just a snake. We think that it was reptilian. You know, it's like there were many Elohims and Anunnaki in the area during the time in the center of the earth, which I believe were paradise or Eden was. You know, there's a big rabbit hole to go into.
There is. I mean, I think that, you know, like when we go into the story of Job, and you know how
get to all that today.
No, but I'm just referring to it. And he was told to present himself before, you know, like Elohim, Yahweh. You know, it wasn't even like the prime creator. Mm-hmm. It was like, you know, Satan, the adversary, you know, was asked where he had been, and he said he was all over the inside workings of the earth,
coming to and fro.
So there is so much to get known.
You really have to like empty your cup and really open your mind and heart to a lot of the different things. You can't just go by the old indoctrination. And, you know, it's like when you watch the news, they don't report the news to you anymore. They indoctrinate you what they want you to believe happened. But they don't, like they used to in the old days, find the facts and let you make the assumption or put the stuff together. Now they indoctrinate you. Well, that's what religion has done, indoctrinating us.
Bill said, I made the point that the serpent was performing a similar role as the Christ in revealing the construct to people. Yeah. Like, hey, you guys, you don't have to be dumb. You don't have to not know this stuff, that you are who you are, but that you actually are more than what you're being told you are.
And it's deeper than that, because I don't believe it was an actual fruit. I mean, that for that matter, you know, when they ate from that fruit, they covered their groins. So it must mean that there was sex involved. They now discovered the ability of good and evil, which has nothing to do with good and evil per se, but the ability to be like gods, to be able to create, to bring forth life. Because before, life was controlled by the Elohims. So there's something to that. And we'll have a show regarding that, because I'm going to put a lot of stuff together regarding that information.
So Crystalline says, you both have to check out Swedenborg off the left eye on YouTube. Little O spelled just like I
the Swedenborg belief. I've been to several of their, because I'm always searching and learning, and you know, it's knowledge is wisdom, and wisdom is knowledge, and it's important for us to grow.
Yes, I always think this poor world was hell. Phil, hi, Cummings. Looking great tonight, Linda. Thank you.
Hey, Phil, how you doing?
Phoenix, they changed the vowel here and made it all male, and it was not. Honey had no sons.
I mean, there's stuff that's talking about that Adam and Eve aren't even the first creation, because if you think about it, they had Cain and Abel as a son, and then it was a Cain that, and there was no wife for Cain. So where did the wife come from? So I'm even looking into pre-existing pre-Adamites, and that's why we have the different, like Chinese and you know, different types of races and cultures that, you know, because we all supposedly came from Adam and Eve. How come we look so different? And I don't want to hear because of the weather condition, because I don't care how cold it is, your eyes are not going to become slanted.
Yeah.
You know, so there's so much stuff that people just kind of like fluff off and go, oh, well, you know, there's more to it.
So Crystallite says 1688 to 1772 is when he lived and wrote his spiritual experiences. It's been an amazing piece to a puzzle for my evolving.
Swedenborg. What was that again?
Swedenborg.
Yeah. They have a church here that right by the
Come on, lovely people. What? We are created in Satan's image because we have both in us? Please clarify.
Oh, we just talked a whole bunch about it.
Okay. We're gonna talk about more.
Yeah.
El Shaddai is a female noun. She is the God Abram worshiped, the God of the breast and womb, God Almighty's mother. She is the Jesus you were to find. The God of the mountains, you all ready? And Crystallite says, I truly believe you'd relate so much and enjoy off the left eye. It's fun stuff. Answer that. Answer that. We are created in Satan's image because we have both in us? Please
God,
clarify.
okay, Satan is just and we've been talking about it, a word created by the religious sector to create fear, to create the fear of hell, to blame somebody. Religion created that. But in my opinion, and in the opinion of, what we're trying to teach here and what the history holds, that God and Satan are one and the same. That duality, that split mind, that thing that this world is trying to create is that there is a Satan, there's a good guy and a bad guy.
Yeah.
So God was the one who actually, was responsible for 250 million deaths, while Satan is responsible for 10, all of which God commanded him to do. If something bad happens, like earthquakes, tsunamis, we tend to call it an act of God, not an act of the devil. I mean, we talk a lot about it in the beginning of the show. I don't want to repeat stuff that we've already said, but
continuing in this book, it says, and Lucifer or Satan was by transformation an angel of light. 2 Corinthians 11:15, or as it is rendered, a star, or 9:15, a star of light. The stars anciently being considered angels or the homes of angels, and were sometimes addressed as angels.
We have then Christ as the morning star, light to lighten, etc., and Satan or Lucifer, a star of light. Both are stars and both are lights. God is another honorable designation for both Christ and Satan. Christ is the God of peace, and 2 Corinthians something or another, and Satan the God of this world, and the appropriateness of the designation and validation of the title of the latter, I believe, is not disputed by the Christian world.
Christ himself seems to have conceded it, for when his Satanship worshipped him, offered him all the kingdoms of this world, as we remember in the wilderness, for one genuflection or act of worship, he did not dispute his title, contest his proprietorship, or call in question the correctness of his boundless claim to all the kingdoms of this world. He seemed disposed to give the devil his due, if not a little more.
I just got a aha moment. When you fast, and fasting creates chemical releases in the brain because everything's being cleansed, you have aha moments. And so maybe it was no devil that was coming to tempt Christ, but it was Christ's own mind and his own nature tempting himself and wrestling with his own devil and angel.
That sounds very possible. Again, was
Christ honored with title of a prince. So as a ruler of Brimstone Kingdom, in Cuba we call it Brimstone.
Oh.
Christ was the Prince of Peace, Satan the Prince of Darkness, the Prince of the power of air. But why was he styled the Prince of Darkness?
Do fire and brimstone give no light? Certainly they do.
Lots of light.
Then would there be not as much propriety in dubbing him the Prince of Light as an angel of light? However, he is acknowledged to be a prince as well as Christ, and thus far they are co-equal.
And did Christ receive the awe-imposing title of Son of God? So did Satan receive a similar title, for Son of the Morning is, when properly rendered, Son of the God who made the morning, who rules the morning, the God and the sun.
But perhaps the most common title, or rather emblem, for that old serpent, the devil, as John the Saint styles him, is that of a serpent. And a serpent was a popular emblem among the Jews for God also, if not a direct and explicit title for the deity. We are told in Numbers 21:9 that Moses made a serpent of brass and put it upon a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived.
So one of the things I also got right now is, what is it that we're trying to achieve now? Is this Christ conscious? Oh, actually, we're not even trying to achieve it. It's happening. Okay. So we are, battling with our devil and our angel, our God and our Satan. And we are trying to burn away or learn how to integrate that good or evil within us. That's part of the awakening that's taking place. And isn't that what it's all about?
It is.
It's like all these fairy tales, all these books, and all these biblical texts, and all these things that are, and in the end of the day, it's all about finding the answer within, making peace with self, and bringing forth that new birth, that Christ consciousness.
Yeah, it's really important, you know, to realize that all of this searching that we do, all this, you know, posturing that we do, I mean, it's like we are so like hungry for truth. You know, we haven't been given the truth.
We
you know,
haven't.
we don't have what we need. You know, it's like we're fed the wrong kind of food. It's like eating candy, you know. You eat or going to McDonald's or something. You know, it's like, you know, you eat, you feel like you got full, and then about a half hour later,
you're hungry again because you're not getting nutrition. And that's the same thing that's happening with spirituality. We got a ton of religion, tons of Bible. Has it solved anything? Is humankind any closer to peace or betterment since the day that religiosities took in? No. Why? Because it's all fake, because it's all a lie, because it's void of the truth. It's void of reality.
I mean, you know, it's like, you know, this whole like concept of a devil and all this, you know, it's like religion needs a scapegoat.
Yeah.
In order for Christianity to have any feet whatsoever, you have to, it's like a good movie, right? Mm-hmm. You have to have a villain. You know, I mean, in the Die Hard series, if there wasn't an enemy for Bruce Willis,
what would the movie be?
What fun would it be? You know,
if some Hollywood producer or some Hollywood writer would write a script and there was no villain, there was no action pack, whatever, the film will be boring. The Bible is a script. Hollywood, you know, it's all, and in the end, you know, we the players, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. The answers are within us. We need to learn how to make peace with ourselves and with one another. That's when the veil will be completely lifted. And I believe that all our troubles would end while we continue to chase our tail and trying to point fingers and trying to say, my God's better than your God. I've got the answer. No. You know, I know the answer.
This whole belief in this dualistic battle of good and evil and gods and good gods and evil, you know, as if the prime creator has a need to engage himself in being in a war in heaven. I mean, why would a prime creator have a foe to oppose, you know, this
it's like a parent getting into an argument with a child.
Yeah.
You know, it's like your kid doesn't want to eat his vegetables and you guys are going to argue and you're going to, in the end of the run, the parent is going to make the kid do what the parent wants the kid to do.
Exactly. And people don't understand that back in the day, the Babylonian captivity, after the Jews got out of, you know, their whole like captive time of 70 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. Before that, they were believing in a pantheon of gods. Yeah. They were a pantheistic society. They were not worshiping Jehovah. No. They were worshiping all these, they weren't a monotheism. Mm-hmm. So when they got out of the Babylonian captivity, that is when they started embracing this whole concept of a devil and this whole concept of good and evil and bad and, you know, all this. And then it got put in to the New Testament. Right. So you find the writers of the New Testament talking about it and all this stuff. And it's like, all of this is ancient. You know, this whole concept of a devil and of a God, of a good and evil. Well, speaking of the ancients in general, Plutarch says they believed in two gods of different trades, if I may say so, who caused the one good and the other evil. They called the first God by excellence and the second a demon. Of the Persians, he says, they believed that the first was of the nature of light and the second was that of darkness.
And this accord exactly with the modern Christian theory. Among the Egyptians, he continued that first was called Osiris and the second Typhon, eternal foe to the first. To show that the notion of doctrine of a personal evil agent, the author of embodiment of all evil, is not tenet peculiar to Christianity, but it is a very ancient heathen origin and prevailed very extensively in the world long before the era of Christianity or advent of Christ. We will cite briefly a few other examples. Augustine tells us that ancient Assyrians as well as Persians admitted to principles whom they honored as two gods, the one good and the other bad.
So, I mean, we're going into things like, you know, all of these cultural like things that we've been taught about Christianity is just old regurgitated ancient Greek lore, old Chaldean mysticism, old pagan, beliefs, I mean, and when you find out why they did it, you'll be amazed, because all of these things were done just like they do now in order to control the populace.
Of course.
In order to make us feel
been.
like we're insignificant, powerless, dumb, and irresponsible for our own divinity, for finding, Christ within us, for finding that spark of divinity that we know we have. We know we have it. We have it within us. And there is no hell. There is no eternal punishment. All of this is done to put fear and trembling into the hearts of people.
That's the only way they can control. So,
I mean, what's not to like about him? Jewelry. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I believe every being has once been a soul born into this world, but I'm always open and leave my beliefs on the shelf. Woman was put in the north, Phoenix says, and man was put in the south, not to come together. A lot out there.
Bill says the magicians manipulate the markets with their money system and profit off the bear, and the bull.
So yeah, they're talking about the symbolism. The Oz story, the lion gets courage, the scarecrow gets a brain, and the Tin Man gets a heart. Symbolism. It is in your movies.
Yeah, the movies tell a lot of stuff. It's not science fiction, but science fact. Totally science fact. I mean, it's...
I'm just trying to get back to where... Because once someone comments, it's like it jumps over. So...
But yeah, I mean, it's, I know that some people, have a hard time accepting anything that is not biblically written the way that, like somebody had mentioned, you've got to read the Bible exactly as, I mean, how can you say to read the Bible exactly as it is when the Bible has been put together, parts that weren't even, it's like trying to put a puzzle piece, a huge puzzle thing that's been thrown and you've lost some of the parts and you're trying to put it together, but it really can't go together because it's lost in translation, books that don't even go together or put together. I mean, you can't really trust it. It was done in a way that would require code understanding. And so, yeah, it's a great book to read. I don't think it's a very exciting book to read. I mean, I've tried reading the Bible from whatever, and it's just like, I can't. It just doesn't make any sense.
Adam and Eve were not the first created, Phoenix says. You're right. Yeah. And then Mickey says this, and this is something that we were talking about. Mickey says they were the first to procreate.
Exactly. And that's why we said eating of the fruit wasn't an actual eating of a fruit. It was sex. They did the big no-no because the gods were the one responsible. And notice I said the word plural, the Elohims, the Anunnaki, the reptilians. They were the ones responsible for bringing life. They didn't allow us to procreate. So when they fell, which was they did the wild thing, then it was like, well, now you're going to be cursed, woman, and have painful pregnancies, and you are now going to have to toil the earth and blah, blah, blah. They were pissed because we found a way of procreating. We find a way of creating pleasure for ourselves. Or before it was just like worship God, I guess, worship all the deities. So, yeah, I mean.
Lindsay says, you guys would really like Martin Kenny's work. He has a channel on here. Yeah, there's so many. I mean, we are just opening ourselves up to ourselves being able to finally understand. The revelation, the apocalypse is happening now.
And it's happening within you because, we like to see other people's stuff. We enjoy it. And what I do is when I pick and choose, or I don't, my heart picks and chooses what, this resonates, this doesn't resonate. But ultimately what I do is I find the answers within, because that's where the answers are for you, for me, for Lena, for everybody. We share here with you and hope that we could juggle something in your head to go, or inside of you.
You know what I just thought of?
What?
Well, we talk about the Christ consciousness. Okay. So we're not talking about a figure, an image, a physical representation of a spiritual body being, like, Christians are told. And when you die and your body transforms into this new spiritual body that can walk through walls, and all that stuff. Well, it's a consciousness, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so then maybe this whole Satan concept is a Satan consciousness. You know, it's not a literal deity of any sort or any kind, or it's the conscience of a God that we are, of being able to do both evil and good.
By awakening to your Christ consciousness, you leave the Satan consciousness behind, and then you are you're born again. You actually become a fully self-actualized God. But until you remove all the baggage, all the fear and guilt and anger and all this stuff, you can't really receive that inner Christ consciousness. You know,
Girl with No Name Spooner says Lucifer is Enki. Satan and Lucifer are not the same entity. I honestly don't even think Lucifer exists.
Yeah.
It exists in the mind of a man who I will loosely call a saint, Saint Jerome, for the sake of his title, but he did it in order to create controversy and control in the Roman Catholic Church, you know. So please search within your heart and don't take my truth for your own, but you're welcome. Could be Marduk. I think it is. It's been some genius trickery, really. So yeah, I mean, Enki is the god who gave us these 3D meat suits. And again, Enki is a title.
It's a title. It's not a person.
An actual, like one of these.
Yeah, it's like saying like corporal or captain. You know, there are many Enkis because there are many captains. There are many. Basically, when there are these advanced beings that have been seen as gods, but there are us in the future. That kind of thing. We descended to ascend again. Okay, there are some of us, our own nature, our higher self, in other dimensions. You know, and it's all a learning game, an all learning thing. I mean, it's become this grand production, like a play, and we think there are all these different characters, but in reality, there's just one consciousness, one of us that has like been fragmented. In search of one another, we create experience and put it in the library. What is that called? The
Akashic record.
Yes, but basically, I mean, to keep it simple, we've like created all these characters and all these plays, but it's really one consciousness, and consciousness that continues to grow and evolve. Like if you look out in the universe, black holes, new star systems start to develop. It's like part of what the prime creator is, one source of energy that has all this creatability. Things just like create all around itself. And some of us are advanced beings that have become our creator gods. Some take it to the point of letting their ego and narcissism take over. And one of the things that we have to learn is to get rid of our baggage so we could be good, balanced creator gods.
I'll keep on going. It's
like, it's not as complicated as we're trying to make it seem. And we all have different ideas. And I'm not saying that your ideas are wrong, but, I don't think that it's as complicated as we're making it out to be. We're like, it's like what we're seeing in our world, everything that's happening, we're creating it. It is our own consciousness that's creating it. We create the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're creating everything. So we need to learn how to really focus ourselves and really learn how to balance ourselves so that we could be good, balanced co-creators.
It's amazing. The more you dig, the more you find. And unfortunately, you're not going to find it in the Bible.
No.
I mean.
And you could watch and listen to other people because, it's like when you dream and you forget your dream if you don't write it down. But during the course of the day, you do things that might trigger a memory of that dream. You're like, let's say you were having coffee and that drinking coffee kind of triggered the dream that you had because it's just kind of like, well, that's what we're here to do as we walk in this living state, what is our real dream and what is our reality. we end up putting puzzle pieces together to remember, because it's not something that we're learning. We already know it. We're just trying to remember, put ourselves back together again as the fragmentation that took place. And in this fragmentation, we create all sorts of characters. Like when you dream, you really never really see yourselves in the dream. You never really see your face. You see all these other people around you, you know, which I believe is the same thing. Here we are thinking that, oh, we are these separate beings, but I believe we're just one. And we're just creating all this, you know, reality, and as a figment of our, whatever it's called, you know,
imagination,
I guess. Or,
well, we wanted to talk a little bit about the concept of eternal punishment, you know, because, you know, people are, you know, I grew up like, I mean, I remember when I was a little kid, I would call into the kids Praise the Lord program on Trinity Broadcasting Network, and I would give my heart to God every time. And then they would send me a new Bible, new children's Bible. And then by the time I got to be like, it was like a year in, and my mom saw I had a stack of Bibles like this high, the same Bible. And it was because I was so fearful of going to hell, you know, and I thought that, you know, if I didn't truly believe or say the right word or whatever, but it was this fear, you know, that you're just like really just pummeled with, you know, that, you know, if you do this, then if God comes back and you're doing that, like say at the movies or something, right? Yeah. It's like, you know, so.
And that is so harmful, raising your kid up with that kind of fear. Talk about post-traumatic stress syndrome. That's what humanity has right now, post-traumatic stress syndrome. That's why everyone is either on some sort of antidepressant, they're overweight, they have some sort of sickness, they're gender confused. They're like, there's so many things, a byproduct of what religion has brought on to the species.
Well, the conception of a future punishment, or rather the thought of turning it to practical account in the way of influencing the actions and conduct of men, seems to have been first suggested to the officiating priests of ancient Egypt by the peculiar circumstances attending their mode of interring the dead.
We are told that a certain cemetery belonging to one of the principal cities of Egypt, being situated at a considerable distance from the town, required the river Styx to be crossed in order to reach it, and before it could be crossed, the ferryman, Sharon, must be satisfied by the payment of his fee.
But in numerous cases, the surviving relatives were too poor to raise it, and the fee had to be paid by the public, or if not thus paid, the body of the defunct was thrown into the ditch to be devoured by dogs and vermin or cast into the river. Acheron, which means hell, at least Christian writers so interpret and translate it.
Thus the river was made the receptacle of the bodies of those who, on account of their vices, were excluded. Multiples were taught from the common obsequies of the dead of the favors of heaven, or rather its supreme ruler, Jove, while the righteous, if poor, were always honored with a decent burial at the public expense.
For the accommodation of the instituted order of the priesthood, towers of buildings were erected, which are now known as temples and churches. And this dates the origin of the priesthood, and their officiating tabernacles or edifices, temples and churches. As here suggested, these episcopes or priests were invested with the prerogative of deciding who, from their acceptable conduct through life, deserved to be decently consigned to the tomb when that conduct was measured by and conformed to a standard which the priests themselves had instituted.
Remember, we had a show the other day where we talked about Paulinian, the religion, versus the Christians that were what were they called?
Essenes, Ebionites.
Yeah, and how different the other ones were. You know, they were poor, they were vegan, they didn't do sacrifices. And then the other ones were all the Roman elitists, you know, that kind of, this is what it's all about, people. The elitists have taken control of the world. The elitists have a bloodline, a reptilian bloodline. They were left here by the Anunnakis to control the world. And they're controlling your every move, your every thought, creating your every fear, feeding off your energy, you know, milking your children, raping your children, pedophiling rings. I mean, you name it. We need to free ourselves. We need to open up our eyes and realize that religion and the God that they have sold you is not the true God. The God that they have sold you is actually Satan and God in one.
Crystalite says, I enjoy breaking this down more simply and talking, sharing thoughts. Thank you both for giving your time and heart to reading every comment and talking about it. Phoenix says, Enki/Jehovah/devil, his church, God's unknowable words, but his devil church changed words. But here we go, nonetheless.
And Girl Without Name Spooner says, I hear what you're saying, but some of what you're saying isn't resonating, so I'll keep it on my shelf for later date. Not a problem.
That's all fine.
Yeah.
Be a simple soul, says she said it.
Yeah.
Thoughts, words, belief, intent is truly everything that we live in and how we make our reality. Hi, can you explain creator God?
Well, there are many creator gods. You know, there are many, many creator gods. You are a creator God yourself in the making. You descended to ascend. Prime creator, which is the hub, the spark that created it all, the actual energy source that has the ability to create something out of nothing. Creator gods are many, from the Anunnaki to the reptilian to all these elevated beings that consider themselves God, that have tried to rule and ruin humanity because they want to be the big cojones, but they're not. So, you know, it's any being that's able to create. When Adam and Eve were able to conceive, they became creator gods. And the Anunnakis didn't like that, because before they actually ever had sex, which was the eating of that forbidden fruit, they relied on the gods to procreate. There have been more humans made before Adam and Eve. The Adamist project was just one particular race. Notice that there are many different cultures and species, or not species, but races in this world. If we all came from just the Adam and Eve, why do we have Chinese people, yellow people, the Netherlands, black people? I mean, the different kinds of people. And I don't want to hear the weather condition, because like I said earlier, I don't care how cold you are, your eyes are not going to go like that. So we got to think these things through. We can't just be little babies and being fed like a bird and believe what people say.
Sherry Sunshine says, create Christ consciousness and find who you really are. Love you both.
Yes.
You too.
You do.
Awesome.
Yes. Christ consciousness. And the consciousness of Christ is the ability to see beyond the veil. It's the ability to move away from religion and religiosity and dogma. It's the ability to be able to question the things that you have been taught. It's the ability to go within to find the answers.
Right, Mark. Actually, Betty says it's very simple and right in front of us. And we will say, why can't we see that?
I know it is, totally.
So Girl with No Name Spooner says, I asked Derek about my research and he confirmed what I asked. That's great.
Yes.
Phoenix says, you got this. Just don't follow the church, the word, Psalms, Proverbs, Genesis 2 stories. Let the rest go, or really study it hard. Derek, like myself, does not know everything. Trust yourself.
Exactly.
Well, we're all learning.
Yeah, we're all learning.
That's why we're still here.
Yeah. Or if we had this all together, oof, we'd be gone.
Crystalite says, I feel it can be more simple than that. Study, but don't stress about what's a lie or getting enough info. Just be and let Father guide. I get curious about wanting specific answers and have to. And
they'll come to you in due time when you're ready. Because I believe as we grow year to year spiritually, more and more answers come to us, and we may not be able to handle it before. What?
I knew at age 8 or 9 that the church was a fraud, because what church lets a kid be baptized 10 times all because I like the water and being dunked?
I know.
And when I used to go to Christian school in 7th grade, they used to have a healing service or baptismal service at like 11 o'clock on Thursday. And miraculously, there were so many students that wanted to go get baptized. Yeah. It was like, wow. Or
dunking in the pool, it's fun. Yeah.
Remember, patience is a virtue, yes. Crystalite says.
Totally.
I have known since 3 years old, and that church is sick. Church of Vipers.
Yeah, it's a business. God has become a business. It was a business back then. It's even a mega business now, because now they have all the lights and whistles and, all these different things. I mean, with all the money that's in the Vatican, we would not have one poor soul living on this planet.
Absolutely.
Not one. Yet how many poor people do we have? How many children go hungry every night?
Very true. And no one can save us but
exactly.
us.
The
Girl with no
answer
name
are
spooner.
the answer is within you.
We are all creator gods.
Yes.
Let's say that together.
We are all creator gods.
Yes.
Yes.
Just by the fact that we can reproduce.
We
life.
descended to ascend. We came down here because it's like, oh, let's strip ourselves of this, you know, see how, you know, because we're playful, you know.
And, you know, it's like Jesus, knowing he was in the full nature between God, was fully God, fully man, decided to, you know, take off his godliness and come down to earth. And it's like, don't you think we made him do that and done that ourselves?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So God is to be given freely, not sold to you. Gurus will pay for leading you astray. The worm of creation, the thought of God is a girl. Ha ha ha.
And you know, that's why the priests have this little thing where people go and confess their sins, you know, and then God knows how many people have been molested in that confession of the sins, and all these different. It's so, to me, it's disgusting, you know, the pedophilia that goes behind all these, you know, churches and belief system, and how women are degraded, and how money is stolen, and how they're tax free, you know, and it's like, don't people put two and two together?
Humans are very powerful beings of energy.
Yes.
Yes, girl with no name.
Yes, we are.
Phoenix, that is why God wants you. What God is this? I believe many people, Crystalite says, have good and loving intent, even though they are teaching and doing wrong.
Because they know no better. They're just going from what they've learned, what their preachers taught them, you know, and it's, yeah.
Girl with no name spooner is like feeling it tonight.
Yeah.
You have to align the body, the mind, body, and soul. Crystalite says, I just have a hard time understanding why people don't seek for more truth and just take what they've been told for the truth.
Because they're lazy, they're afraid, they don't want to rock the boat, they don't, you know, they don't understand it. I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, we all went to church and it was just the same thing over and over again. And you kind of go, okay, this is the God thing, you know, and you're like, you were taught by your parents and you continue the same behavior. You know, when you remove that veil and you start being hungry for more, that's when you start to want to dig in.
And, you know, Girl with No Name Spooner says it's simple, but it's hard to die to the ego.
That's the problem.
That we all have been indoctrinated with for centuries.
Yeah, and then, you know, we hold that belief in as feelings on our sleeves. And when somebody questions our belief, we get mad at them. What are the biggest fights in the world about religion and politics?
I know.
You want people at it? You know, when you disagree with somebody about their politics or their religion, it becomes World War III. But if we stop wearing our feelings on our sleeves and stop, you know, thinking that just because our beliefs may be wrong, that it's not that you're wrong. It's just the way that we've been taught may not be exactly the right way. And so having an open heart and an open mind and being able to converse as two adults communicating and sharing without battling out, it's a beautiful thing.
Crystal Light says we can create life here. That way new souls can be created and old ones can be given time to learn, because time isn't linear in the other realms.
Exactly. You know, parallel universes. The only place that actually has a watch and follows time is on this planet. Other planets don't know that. In the spirit world, another dimension, time is not like we see time here.
Yes, all will be deceived. Stay awake and breathe in the light and love. You are love.
Thank you.
I've been doing my homework. Loving this spiritual journey.
It's amazing. It's like freeing. It's like, you know, we have so much poo-poo in our heads from what we've been taught when we go to school, and they fill us up with all these formulas and all these things that means nothing, and all this biblical jargon and all this stuff that doesn't help anyone, because to this day, I don't see the world any better by following the same biblical jargon that we've been following for eons.
And we need to remember the fact that all of this stuff that, you know, we've been taught in westernized Christianity and the Roman Catholic Church, Protestantism afterwards, is just another regurgitation of another control system of religious imposition on the human race. And it's been done before in different cultures, and it gets peddled as something that's new, but it's the same old BS.
And then
the same
all
thing.
the different religions. I mean, I studied in high school world religion. I took the class, and it's like, oh my God, there's one God and there's all these different religions. Why is that? Because people are following different deities, Jehovah, Yahweh, whatever. I mean, there's a list among mile long of a list of different gods and deities, and that's why we have all these different beliefs when in generally, there is only one prime creator, and he only really asks a few things of you. Love him with all your heart and love your neighbor as you would love yourself. Very simple. Be complicated.
A research into Oriental or ancient sacred history reveals us an important fact, if you please, reduces the same to an important fact, that the natural apprehension or suspicion of all these philosophic minds who have long since investigated the nature of the priestcraft set down the doctrine of future endless punishment as the work of divining priests.
Mythological history is exuberant with the evidence that the traditional scheme of punishment for human beings or human souls in another world for action committed in this was invented by the priesthood as one of their auxiliary means of promoting the interest of their craft.
And according to the Grecian writers, the agents of government or administrators of law joined with the priests, just like they do now, and likewise adopted the system as a more effectual manner of controlling the populace and keeping them in subjection to who?
Government.
And who wrote the King James Version?
The King James.
King James.
Yeah. Well, he didn't write it. He had monks translate.
He had Sir Francis Bacon, Shakespeare.
I heard that he would kill the monks if the monks would say, no, this is not what this means. And he would continually torture and kill those that wouldn't write what he wanted them to write. To state the thing in brief, priests and politicians colleagued together and invented the devil and his domicile as scarecrows to frighten the ignorant, superstitious masses into quiet, submissive allegiance to be ecclesiastic.
To the ecclesiastical tribunals.
That big word, namely the powers that be. That I do not misrepresent when I aver the devil and hellfire doctrines were concocted by designing priests and pettifoggers to serve as bugbears. I never heard that one either, to frighten their credulous and childish subjects into acquiescent, that one, submission to their assumed authority to prove it.
We have some very ancient authority to prove it. We have some ancient testimonies in this subject from Egypt, India, Greece, and Strabo is the geographer of Greece. He declares that Plato and the Brahmins invented fables concerning the future punishments of hell. And he appears to justify the invention, for he says, the multitude are restrained from vice by the punishment the gods are said to inflict upon offenders, and by those terrors and threatenings which certain dreadful words and monstrous forms imprint upon their minds. These things the legislators used as scarecrows to terrify the childish multitude.
They cannot be governed by philosophical reasoning. They are not led by such means to piety, holiness, and virtue, but this must be done by superstition or the fear of the gods. It is impossible to conduct women and the gross multitude and to render them holy, pious, and upright by the precepts of reasons and philosophy.
The fiery torches and the snakes of the Furies and the spears of the gods and the whole ancient mythology are all fables, employed as bugbears to overawe the credulous and simple. Mr. Robinson remarks on the above that these ideas afterward adopted in Europe are precisely the same which the ancient Brahmins had adopted in India for the government of the great body of their people 3,000 years ago.
I mean, since the multiple is ever fickle, full of lawless desires, irrational passion, and violence, there's no other way to keep them in order but by the fear of the invisible world, on which accounts our ancestors, it seems to me, acted wisely when they contrived to bring into popular belief the notion of the gods and the infernal religion. Hell is useless to sages, but necessary to the blind and brutal populace. What do
Hell is useless to sages, but necessary to the blind and brutal populace.
What does our government use to scare the living daylights out of us? Terrorism. Terrorism. They're calling everybody terrorist. And at one point it was communism, the communists. There's always got to be a boogeyman. Hitler had his own false flags. This government creates false flags. Why? To keep us all in line. They divide us so they can conquer. No different back then. No different with religion. No different with the devil and Satan. I mean, God and Satan. It's the same story over and over again.
So guess what? In 1924, almost 100 years ago, the whole secret was out that the soul roasting doctrine of the ancient pagans copied into the Christian scriptures and transmitted through Christian credulity and superstition down to the present day that we're living today was not designed for sensible and intelligent people, but to frighten fools with.
Yeah, and back then people didn't read. Back then people were illiterate.
They didn't have access.
We have evolved people. We've got a little more. I think more than a little more intelligence. So those good Christians who in this enlightened day and age of the world still hold to this ancient superstition or myth should not complain if we rank them with this class, seeing that historically demonstrated that no other class of people were expected to believe it but fools.
Go ahead.
For this is the testimony not of one or two writers only, but of all who wrote the subject thousands of years ago in Egypt, India, and Greece, and they were many.
They all concur with Strabo and Polybius in representing the doctrines of devils and post-mortem punishment as having been fabricated for the special benefit of the low, ignorant, and superstitious populace. Superstitious. If space would allow it, I might quote in proof from Cicero, Dionysius, Seneca, Socrates, Virgil, Livy, Plutarch, and Zemaeus. It's like, for as we sometimes cure the body with unwholesome remedies, when such as are most wholesome produce no effect, so we restrain those minds with false relations, which will not be persuaded by the truth.
So there is therefore a necessity for instilling the dread of those foreign torments reserved to the criminals in Tartarus, and also by the other fiction which Homer has found in the ancient sacred opinions. As Homer's time was several hundred years before Christ, this declaration makes the doctrine of future punishment of very ancient existence. This poet, whom some chronologists place 900 BC, is here represented as finding the doctrine in them ancient sacred opinions.
They have confirmed, India 3,200 years ago, they did the same thing. The more learned Brahmins affirmed that hell, which is mentioned in the Vedas, was only intended as a bugbear, whatever that means, to enforce upon their minds the duties of morality. For that hell is no more than a consciousness of evil and those bad consequences which invariably follow wicked deeds.
Consciousness of evil. So you got the Christ consciousness or the consciousness of evil.
You live in hell when you
What consciousness do you want to have? What consciousness do you want in you? Consciousness of evil or consciousness of the Christ?
I will close my historical citations by brief quotations from two Christian writers. The Reverend Mr. Pitrat, in his Pagan Origin of the Papalist Doctrine, says,
and indeed, we're losing. Indeed, there is no sort of torment that was not invented by legislator, mystagogues, poets, and philosophers to frighten the people under the false assumption of making them better. But the truth is, it was rather to keep them down in subjection. And that's what religion does. It makes you feel your heart is wicked. You can't be trusted. The movie, what is it, the Da Vinci Code? What did the guy do whipping himself? I mean, it's this need, this God gene, this fearing gene that we have within us, that we need to evolve from. There is a prime creator. There is a divine force out there, but we are part of that divine force. And the time for us to connect with our Christ consciousness is now, and to let that evil consciousness go away.
So we are absolutely you know, been sold lies.
Big time
lies. Lies. That's all we get. We don't get the truth anymore. We get lies. And unless you're willing to do the homework that you can do now with the internet and with looking things up and, you know, going within yourself and really looking into what it is all about, then, you know, I mean, people are like, you know, they don't have an excuse anymore.
No, they don't.
You know what I mean?
They really don't.
And I know that, you know, we've been going on about this, but wow, there's just a lot to share. Yeah. And I don't know. I seem to feel like you feel like we're losing.
No, it's been 2 hours since we've been on already.
Okay.
So I don't know how people feel. Maybe
I just have a hard time understanding that why people don't seek for more truth. Like I said before. Yeah. The sons were made. He wants his sons. Who is this? Phoenix said.
It is simple, but it's hard.
I read that one already. I gotta go. Yes, all will be deceived. Stay awake and breathe. Yeah, we did that one. Sorry, you guys. What if the Elohim? What were the Elohim? They made the Elims, the sons. Who is this God? Yeah.
The Elohim, I think, it was more than just one God. I think they were, you know, the Elohims were various. And I think that was also another label. I mean, it's like Anaki, you know, I think it's like, it's almost like in the army, you know, you've got the corporal, the lieutenants, the privates. I mean, we're like the privates, and you've got all these other ranking higher beings that have, you know, they have more experience than we do, and they've taken it upon themselves to be.
How about this? Gods. Michael says, are we the Elohim?
Well, at one point I thought that many of us could be, because the Elohims were both, you know how they say it, created male and female, created them. So that's a possibility. That's something that
Elohim's in training.
Elohim's in training, possibly learning, you know, many things that we have to learn, not of this world, not like going to college and getting a degree, because that's all part of the distraction, but learning, you know, how to get rid of the baggage of all the energy source that is not of service to each other, and things that are just at lower levels. So that's a possibility. That's something that we will probably look into as well.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, you know, these, of course, in order to secure obedience, they were obliged to invent divine punishments for disobedience of what they gravely asserted to be divine laws. And it'll be observed that what we have the most positive evidence, the most demonstrative historical proof to establish this threefold position.
That the doctrine of future endless torment, the after-death penal retribution, was extensively preached and promulgated in the pagan world long prior to the era of the inauguration of the Christianity. Yeah.
Two, that it was invented or hatched up by designing priests and lawmakers as a raw head and bloody bones to frighten those who might be simple or silly enough to believe it into loyal submission to their aspiring power, that the credulous, ignorant, and superstitious masses or classes of society might thus become the pliant tools, the stepping stones to the selfish ambition of the demagogues of both church and state.
What happened when Columbus came to the Americas and went in and the natives saw him? What did the natives think? They were gods because they came in a ship, you know? I'm sure that back in the day, these Elohims, these, you know, these aliens came in and people thought they were gods. I mean, so there's so much. There's just so much.
Number three.
The learned or intelligent class of society never believed in the doctrine, nor was it expected that they would, as it was not designed for them. And hence, those who now subscribe to the doctrine as being literally reality, although they may be called Christians, cannot in a strict sense be called sensible and intelligent people, because they were, you know, ignorant to a lot of things.
Absolutely. You know, it's beyond, you know, belief, the disservice that we've all been done, you know, that we've been really sold a bag of coal, you know,
Totally.
I just wanted to end the show with the whole, because we were going to talk about Lucifer and the war in heaven. And one of the things that, I always thought, well, that's what happened. I mean, I thought it was fact.
No, there's a lot of stuff that's not fact.
I mean, I thought it was set in the words, it was truth. But as we shall see, the Bible says, and there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. Revelation 12:7.
So there is scarcely an Oriental nation whose religion has been commemorated in history, but has preserved in its tradition the story of celestial battle or war in heaven, similar to that referred to in the above text. Titan, according to the Roman legends, rebelled against Jupiter and thereby stirred up a war in heaven. But Jupiter prevailed and cast him and his rebel host over the battlements of heaven, as Michael and his angels did the dragon and imprisoned them under the mountains, where they,
from our sacred hill, holy mountain, with fury thrown deep in the dark Tartarian gulf shall ever groan. And it was the belief of the superstitious classes that it was the attempt of this infernal host to rise and liberate themselves, which produced all the earthquakes and volcanoes, and the battle of the Titans, the children of heaven, against the gods of Olympus in the other world, is found in mythological traditions of ancient Greece. And then we have in Egyptian traditions the story of Typhon, the devil, rebelling and making war against Osiris, who cut him to pieces.
The chains related a battle between the inhabitants and of the clouds and the stars, the Lamb of God, that taketh away the sins of the world.
That sounds familiar.
Yes, headed the starry host and conquered with the Persians, who seem to have the original copy or edition of the story. The scene was an astronomical one. A war broke out between the summer god and the winter god, which was simply a contest between the season of summer and winter, that is, between heat and cold. There's the night god and the day god, and every day Horus and the other god, what Zeitgeist, the movie talks about, on daytime, the same kind of battles.
The winter god was hurled out of paradise and became a fallen angel. Each had a retinue of subordinate angels, as in St. John's case. And here we will call attention to a curious circumstance in the choice of names which St. John selected for the principal combatants in his account of the celestial combat. Michael is his good angel, and dragon is his bad or wicked angel.
Now, let it be noted here that the last syllable of Michael is El, which is the Hebrew name for God. The genitive case being Eloi, or Eloi Lama Sabachthani, something like that, is a prayer to God in the Hebrew language. And on the label, or in the last syllable for dragon, is the Egyptian name of God. Hence, it is simply the Hebrew god El in the battle array against the Egyptian god On. And of course, St. John would represent the Hebrew god or angel, God Michael conquered.
On was also named for the god among the Babylonians. And it's curious circumstance that whenever the Hebrew and the Hebrew descended Christians, hating as they did the Egyptians and Babylonians and any other Gentile or even today, they hate the other people that don't believe in what they believe, because they had conquered and enslaved their ancestors, had occasion to refer to or speak of the God of either of these nations. They would employ some odious, even devilish title as the dragon or Typhon or Dagon or Abaddon or Apollyon or Python. Some of these were very honorable, lofty, and sacred titles of names for God among the ancient Babylonians and Egyptians.
But the Jews and the Christians have dragged down their gods and converted them into devils. Or rather, they have stolen their sacred title for God and rendered it odious by applying it to the devil as Typhon, Dagdon, the dragon, etc. Well, on the other hand, they defied some of their own angels and ancient worthies by attaching to their names, either at a commencement or a termination, the Hebrew title for God El as Gabriel, Israel, Elisha, Elijah, etc.
They were thus godified or deified. In view of these facts, it's not to be wondered at all that St. John should speak of Babylon as being the mother of harlots and abomination, and rank Egypt with Sodom, On and Am being the same, and Gomorrah and the Bible writers should use the name of both Egypt and Babylon as synonymous for everything hateful, disdainful, odious, or wicked. It was but the natural, practical, or wicked outworking of their pent-up feelings of revenge, and thus the great enigma of the mystery of Babylon is solved. Reader, please reflect upon these things.
So we continue.
Yeah.
The belief has obtained wide acceptance in the Christian world that the devil, Elias, the dragon, is a fallen angel. As St. John speaks of the dragon falling from his angelship or angelship and being cast into the bottomless pit as per Revelation. And how did old Captain Dragon, captain of the infernal goats, fall? Let us inquire.
Why, he simply fell into the hands of Christendom, who assumed the license to metamorphose him from a god to a devil. They dragged him from the throne of God in the Babylonian and Egyptian heavens, armed with horns, hooves, and tail, and converted him into a devil, a fallen angel, dragon, and cast him into the bottomless pit in retaliation for the bondage endured at the hands of these nations in times past. And as this dragon came down from heaven, according to the mystic and apocalyptic St. John, his tail became entangled among the starry worlds, tore 1/3 of them loose from their orbits, and precipitated them down upon our little tiny planet.
So he suggests that he must have been nearly all tail, or rather than the story is a tale, fable. No wonder that the kingdom of heaven suffered violence. However, astronomically speaking, it is literally true. For according to Burrett's geography of the heavens, the astronomical dragon spreads over a large portion of the canopy, embracing at least 5 large constellations.
And as to his following, it is even so for the dragon. Now the sign for October, under the name of Scorpio, is fallen, being once away up in the harvest month of August. By the procession of the equinoxes, he fell lower and lower until he sunk below the southern horizon, into the quote-unquote bottomless pit or pit of darkness.
The conception of fallen angels is neither new nor original to the Christian Bible. The Hindu Bible, at least 3,000 years old
people.
of the Vedas, give it in its 3rd chapter in somewhat detailed accounts of the fall of angels, while the 4th chapter describes their mode of punishment, which consisted in being hurled down from their lofty position in where? Paradise, because they rebelled against heaven, i.e. the Trinity, the Unity, the Brahma, the Vishnu, and the Deva, and were precipitated in Andhra, the deep, dark pit, there to remain until the intercessor called also the Lamb of God.
The second person in the Trinity, sounds very familiar, would plead for them and have them delivered, having first, however, to serve out their 1,000 years probation, which reminds us of St. John's dragon being bound for 1,000 years. The Persian tradition of fallen angels found in their Bible, the Send Avesta, is somewhat similar, excepting that out of 30 different orders of angels, they had but one to fall, one who thereby became a Paris, a devil. So these are, again, legends of pagan time.
Now let's take a really good close look at this. Time. It's all about astrology. What are we made up of? Stardust. What has been happening out in the great yonder, universes are created, planets are born, stars fall. I mean, how many falling stars, angels are there? So could possibly the great creator be some form of energetic force that we have not been able to understand with our little minds, but there's this force that just controls everything in the universe, and in it doing so, things are created on this planet, on this realm of matter. The atoms are moving around and gravity and all that good stuff. So, I mean, I don't have the exact wording because it blows our minds, because it's something that cannot be spoken about, because our minds can't understand it. But look at all that we've read. Look at all that it talks about up there.
Yeah.
As above, so below. So,
absolutely.
These are things that we could chew on, that we could try to understand, instead of just reading these little fables, these little fairy tales, and condemning one another because my God's better than your God, and my God says this and that and the other. We need to break free from that if we are going to, evolve as the spirit beings that we are.
Emily says, This world is a fear-based elevation. To you, consciousness brings us out of fear, much love.
Yes. And the fifth world says the female counterpart, that is God.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and she retracted. Oh,
Yeah.
she saves you from the aliens, but you all chose the male Jesus that gives birth and goes through labor. You figured out what happens to you. The creator to me is not female nor male, says Emily.
Yeah, I believe the creator is both sexes, androgynous, like the yin and the yang, an energy force, just like the electrical current has a positive and a negative. In my opinion, the creator is not a man with a beard pointing our faults, but it's a source. It's a force, energetic, light. I don't even have a name for it, but
too many histories, says James, in word and carved in stone for me to be anything but open-minded and searching.
Exactly. And that's why we all need to be, because, not one true writing or not. I mean, because it's all, to me, everything written is people's own interpretation of their own divinity. You get a divine message from your higher self. It may not be for you to share it or to believe that everyone should believe like you. You could share it, but then people are going to create their own little, well, this makes me feel like this.
Yeah.
And this is when I read this gives me this kind of feeling. I believe this, that, and the other. Religion is dogma, and that's why it fails us, because it doesn't look at the different mindsets, the different people's understanding of things.
Yeah. Bill H says the wars in heaven were real. It was celestial events that were witnessed by the ancients. We're about to witness them again. And when I was growing up, what was the big movie? 1977?
Star Wars.
Yep.
I believe that.
What were they warring?
Yep.
Were they warring in heaven?
Yep.
All these ancient beings.
Yeah, that's why I said as above, so below. Stardust, things that are happening out in the skies, things that are, our little minds sometimes have a hard time wrapping around these things, and we need simpleton. That's why the Bible is created as simpleton. But it's bigger than most of us could understand. And I think a lot of us are evolving to understand it. I think we are literally, and we're still working on it as we continue to connect our DNA.
So Phoenix says, Eternal Osman says 7 hells and 7 heavens and 7 hells. Phoenix I Am says 3 planets crashed into each other. That was the war in heaven. 7 hells, they're called the 7 scorpion girls. They are coming, Phoenix says. And James says, because I know little, learn much. That's a good attitude. Yeah. Emily says discernment.
Fire of God. What did Phoenix say? The bite of the scorpion, the fire of God. Yeah, there's so much in astrology, that says so much. Really. It's like as above, so below.
Phoenix says,
remember, the Grand Canyon makes the book a lie.
Their book a lie.
Yeah.
The Grand Canyon was created by a plasma strike.
I believe so. By, the warring aliens up there. There's so much.
It's called The Kiss of the Sun, told the Cummings about this. Or the opening of the mouth ceremony. They call it a funeral rite. Babylon is next. East Coast.
Yep. That's why we left Florida. And unfortunately, I have my family there, but they wouldn't listen to me for the life of me. They think I'm crazy.
Nomad Apocalypse says, Randall Carlson has interesting teachings about dragons being huge comets.
Well, what is, the tail of a comet? What is it, and what is inside that comet? What is inside a star? Could it be souls and spirits, that we don't see? They don't have a body, and that's why these bodies were created. Anything's possible.
A priest once came to issue me, says Lisa Farmer, my last rites, Phoenix. Laying in that hospital bed, they had my hands tied down. As I looked down at my feet, I seen him standing there, dressed in black.
That was the way that whole Catholic Church getup is really freaky to me. Even the way they dressed,
Creator has no gender. She
said right. That's right.
The man in black is helping put this back together. Let him go.
And I got up and walked out of there. I hear you.
You want to see the field when you die, not the light.
Not the light. Stay away from the light.
We're all right in our own way.
White light is not good.
Not
God. Well, God, good. Golden light is God. It will surround you with love.
She said, I hope she gets to be on our show, talking about her NDE.
Yeah.
I have died more than once. I'm pretty sure it's more frequency than fields, but I guess the perception is unique to all.
Well, it all depends on what you believe in and what you're going to experience, because they, meaning the reptilians, the ones that want you to come back here and do it all over again, will use your belief system to get you back in here. So that's why we have to really rid ourselves, empty our cup, and really go into our own divinity to know exactly what we need to do. You need to contact your higher self. And yeah, I did send, she said, the attachment, and she's supposed to fill it out and send it to me. And we have tentatively put her on for Thursday. I haven't scheduled her yet until I receive.
She's in Australia.
Until I have received the, we need to check out the timing too, because if she's in Australia, your Thursday might be our Wednesday. So we gotta,
something like that.
We have to.
It would be.
Yeah, something like that.
Phoenix says, I've died on purpose many times.
I've actually interviewed in the past several Australian people, transplants from Australia. So,
and Lisa says, I've never been Catholic.
Yeah, Catholic. Well, I was baptized Catholic as my family's from Cuba, and that Cuban have a very Catholic belief. My father had all the saints and all that stuff, and I was baptized. I didn't like that religion. Then my grandmother became a Jehovah's Witness. And that was like
my grandfather went from being a strict Catholic to becoming one of those Holy Spirit filled Pentecostals. So it's like from one extreme
to the other,
to the next extreme. It was like, so
Phoenix says she's died on purpose many times.
Yeah, I just read that.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I just
it is our way, the Sundance. Your government said we cannot do it anymore.
Oh wow.
I received it and will do my Saturday lunch. Your Friday night.
So
that's what she says. Will do my Saturday lunch your Friday night.
Okay, so instead of Thursday, it'll be our Friday and your Saturday. Okay, sounds good.
Bill H says, I came out of the Catholic Church when agnostic, then was in the Pentecostal Church.
There's so many.
How did that go for you, Bill?
I know, that's like, wow.
Did the Pentecostal Church do it?
Yeah, well, because in the search, literally, in our quest for truth, and we search, we go through different stages and phases and try to. I mean, we've gone through all of like this, up and down. And it's like, it's healthy to do, because you get to know a lot of things, and you get to know your true intent, your higher self, and it's like learning how to ride a bike. You fall sometimes, you create some imbalance, until you get that groove, and then you're just,
Now, I know, like, when I was like 9 years old, and probably Bill would understand this, I got filled with the Holy Spirit and spoke in tongues.
Ooh, I got something to say about that.
So I remember I was in a situation where I was being questioned and everything, and I started speaking, and these were Christian people, and one was a self-proclaimed prophet, and he said, you are not speaking anything other than demonic.
Right. And that's what I believe speaking in tongues is. Demonic. I mean, I've seen people go to the ground, they're flirting, they're like squirting around like fish out of water.
I've never been that way.
No, but I've seen that.
But and I'm just wondering if what I had was actually,
most neurotic females ever in the Pentecostal church, and controlling.
Oh yeah.
Women that are in the Pentecostal church have this thing about being so controlling.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being in service one time, because I went to Bible college in Greenmark, and this kid was running all around the sanctuary, right? And he finally, like, boom, hit one of the pillars in the church. Ooh. And
Damien, welcome back. Big hugs, everybody. Oh, yes. Big hugs again. Yes. All right. So
my boyfriend surrendered to preach until a church told him the same church across town works for the devil. He wasn't saved. He's happy he found me.
I have no beliefs. I'm too curious.
I got kicked out of the Catholic school, LOL, Emily says.
It's like I would drive the Jehovah Witness ladies crazy as a kid because I would ask all these questions, you know, and it's like, it's good to have an inquisitive nature. Isn't that the beauty of being children? You know, always wanting to learn and grow and being childlike in nature and, you know, being, what's the word I'm looking for? Innocent, you know, and loving versus being so dogmatic and rigid. And, you know, that just causes cancer and wrinkles and it's not good. It's not good for anyone, you know, and I think that's what most of the religions and religiosity need to like get a life, you know. They need to just like, okay, put that Bible down, dance a little, do a little dance of life, you know, and just kind of like get in tune with that energy flow that we are so part of and connected to, that divine sense, to your feminine. If you're a man, get in touch with that. And if you're a woman, get in touch with that masculinity, but not in the sense of, you know, dominance, but in a sense of God, how do I explain masculinity without warlike and without dominating, but assertiveness, you know, a sense of knowing, a sense of authority, but without dogma. So it's a balance, that femininity and that sense that words don't do me justice, but I try to embody that feeling on a daily basis.
Splashy76 says, hi guys, I have a very serious thing to talk about. If you respond, I'll continue.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Shoot
away. In the meantime, my grandmother was Catholic. My grandfather was full blood. She hated his heathen ways, but he saved me.
That's wow. So he saved you from Catholicism.
Wow. That's good.
I love them both. Nomad says, I remember going to a Pentecostal church when I was a kid. People were practically humping the walls.
Wow.
And that's what, you know, it's like, I remember just being very uncomfortable.
Well, it is. I mean, when you hear the blah, 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 whatever, and then getting all over the place and it's like, ¿Qué demonio se te metió? What demon got into you? I mean, it's like.
People were literally in Canada barking.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Or that the ones that play around with the snakes and they.
Oh, yeah, that's in the South.
Woo!
And the other was, there was one guy from South America who traveled all over the country. Mm-hmm. He was called like the laughing minister.
Oh.
And they had like this laughing thing that was going on.
Don't they realize that
bizarre.
Is, they are following the God of the Bible, the God that has killed 250 million people, the God that, you know, has many, it's like bipolarness, you know, that kind of thing.
Oh, drum roll, Splashy.
Okay. Hi, guys. I
don't see it yet.
I'm very serious thing to talk about. If you respond, I'll continue. Okay, we're waiting.
Yeah, we're waiting. In the meanwhile,
I love them. Okay.
I don't bow to no man or God.
Exactly.
The Father is in us. We grow to show love in order to clean our kingdoms to inherit the keys.
Exactamundo, Damien. I feel the same way.
Damien.
Feel the same way.
I mean, a father is. I didn't worship my dad.
No, I don't worship mine.
Why? If we call this supreme creator or whatever a father, why can't we just honor the fact that they created us, right?
Right.
But not worship them.
Exactly. Because we don't worship our parents. Bro, if I did, I'd be like, my mom is and my dad. Oof. So I don't worship them. You know, I'm grateful that they gave me life. And, you know, I try to learn not to be like them, because if I was, I'd be in trouble. But I don't worship them. So the white man brought 10,000 white women over here to many natives to marry. Okay. To mix the blood. Why did they do this? I know.
And the riddler continues. My grandfather took care of this for me. What they put in me has been removed. Thank God. That light you talk about is not good.
Exactly.
Why y'all think Jeffrey's so anti-church?
Exactly. And he's been in it for years.
I grew up in the same exact group of people. I used to work for Trinity Broadcasting Network, Paul and Jan Crouch, the whole Pentecostal charismatic movement. There was one time this guy came. His name was Kim Clement. He's a traveling evangelist from South Africa. Mm-hmm. And he was just like totally like getting the people all worked up and doing these miracles. And I felt like it was like this big circus show. You know, he was just like a traveling road show, you know, requiring people to offer, you know,
what did Jeffrey say to do? He would like wipe his sweat on people. And Bill said his ex and him send the kids to Assembly of God Christian school for a while.
That's where I grew up. I went to Christian school. I grew up in an Assembly of God bilingual church.
Source is what I call prime creator source, the universe.
Okay.
Drum roll. Okay.
Splashy. I am feeling killed inside, so let me tell, I am a Muslim. I love people and I love peace. It is my dream to come to the USA for a job. I am studying, but I just saw a bunch of anti-Muslim videos.
You know, there is, I mean, the whole 9/11 thing.
Oh, wait. People hate us. We don't mean any harm.
I know that.
We love everyone. Taught to love everyone. Hate terrorism, rapists, and all bad stuff. We are taught to not even stare at girls, not to talk to anyone rudely.
And I, you know, it hurts me to see that the United States of America, as much as they made communism be a terrible thing, and I think, you know, they have a bad way of doing things like that. They did the same thing with a Muslim. They created the 9/11 ordeal to get into Iraq, to do what they're doing. There's a lot of stuff involved in this, a lot of stuff that people don't realize, and they've demonized a group of people who are very loving and very peaceful.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's wrong, but it's part of what America does.
I once had dinner with a Christian couple. We were there doing a videotaping in the old city of Jerusalem,
Mm-hmm.
and they lived right in the Christian quarter or something, right off of the Via Dolorosa. And we were up there, and this wonderful, beautiful Muslim woman came and brought her some bread, you know, and broke bread with us and stuff there, and we shared a meal. She was the most loving person you would ever meet. And you know, they were talking, a Christian and a Muslim were talking, and they were just like family.
They're
and
very
they said,
peaceful
you know,
people.
We don't want wars. We don't want any violence. It's these extremists who come.
And it's actually the CIA created Al-Qaeda. Okay. It's all been part of a CIA project. You know, like they do with other third world countries. They try to take down the leader. If the leader doesn't comply, they either assassinate the person. They create these lies. They create these scenarios. The boogeyman's out to get you. They demonize people, and they do it all for a purpose. And they fund both sides of the war. You know, I mean, people need to realize that what we see is not actually true. And there's a lot of lies because of this and because of power and because the reptilians that are running this world, are doing horrible things to humanity.
Well, I just want to tell you on behalf of everybody here,
we love you.
That we love you, Splashy 76, and we want to send you all of our love. Like everybody, just give Splashy all this love. You know, let Splashy know that we are all part of the human family.
Yes.
Not the Muslim family, not the Christian family, not the atheist family, agnostic, a human family. And we all need love, right? We all need love.
Yes.
She said, I've known many beautiful Muslims.
Yes.
Beautiful Muslims. The nerve of America.
I know. It's crazy. And people believe it. You got people that actually believe the lies. You know, and it's beyond me. It really is.
Keep your ways. It is very important, Splashy. The Bushes took down the towers.
Yes.
Oh boy, that's not
that was there. Yeah. Well, that was a big.
I don't want to do a video.
Well, let's put it this way,
them because this is Allah's land. It is in the book.
Yeah, it was very much, you know, a false flag. It was created.
Phoenix, I am trying to get to states to stand in Babylon and share love with my brothers and sisters to bring the light, truth, and love.
Yes.
Splashy Bill H says, it's a propaganda campaign.
Yeah.
9/11 was an inside job pulled off as a part of a joint effort with Israel.
And they're still investigating it. I mean, how did Building 7 come down when no airplane hit that one. That was a controlled demolition. You see it in the movies such as Loose Change. There's a lot of documentaries. There's a lot of scientists. There's no way those buildings could have come down because of an airplane.
Building 7.
Pentagon, there's no, they didn't found an engine or nothing. That was a missile.
There's no way a plane could even land in that trajectory.
I know. But, you know, lots of people know this, but a lot of people do not know this. And, you know,
sort of like the Bible.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It falls into the abyss that is under their feet. White men knew this. This is how much that church loves you.
Yeah, exactly.
Splashy says, main point, every religion has stupid cults, you know, Far Cry. 5, stupid Christian cults, not hating Christianism. I love it. Like that, we have all like 5% of stupid terrorists due to whom we are hated.
Right.
You are the best, guys. Now I can sleep. Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
Damien said to send hugs to you. So
yes.
He said
hugs.
Big hugs.
Yes.
Now I can sleep. Wow.
Yeah.
Toss the TV out of your window.
Yeah, we don't watch any TV. We only watch YouTube videos and documentaries that teach us something, because TVs, I've stopped watching TV for the longest time. Back in 2008, when I realized that tube was there to program us.
Handheld rockets from the street. Had the pictures. Put them in a safe place. They messed up. 13 Colony, USA. Oh, wow. Just has so much.
Yeah.
Sleep well, Splashing. No worries. Emily says.
Never worry, Splashy. Allah has us. The Master has us. Definitely. And we have each other. And the more and more connection that we make, and open hearts and minds, and get people to just put away all that dogma, and put away their ego, you know, and go within and realize that the consciousness is arising, you know, the good consciousness, the consciousness is going to allow us to finally get the stuff done.
Bill H says, and like you've said it before, and an undamaged passport found on the sidewalk.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, everything blew up. Everything was whatever. People died. They couldn't even find body parts, but they found passports.
Right.
And they knew exactly who they all were. I mean, it's just like, who believes?
Thank you, Flashy. I mean, Splashy.
Thank you. I mean, who believes all this stuff? Really? I mean,
who would? Who would? I mean, if you look at the evidence and you see how those buildings came down, it was an obvious controlled demolition.
Totally,
I mean,
totally.
There's no way that you could think of it.
You could see it floor by floor. And then building 7.
It didn't even get touched.
No, but it came down.
It went down.
Yeah, demolition.
And it just so happened to.
And that was the beginning.
Destroy records that were in the towers.
That was, and the owners of the towers took out a massive amount of insurance prior. That was the beginning of the end. That was the beginning of the end. That was like, if anything was like a cusp of something 9/11, because notice the elite used numbers. That was like, boom, the gates open to create the beginning of the end of things that are taking place. Travel's never been the same. You'll have
Even
faith.
Experts said that it was a controlled
demolition,
explosion. Yeah. Most of the American public believes it, unfortunately. And you know why? You know why the American public believes it? Because they still believe, a lot of people in this country still believe in a hell. They still believe in eternal punishment. They still believe in a God and the blood and Jesus and salvation and all this. You know, they still believe.
And they believe that government's good, you know,
but they wave their flag in pride.
And they're so lazy because they just want to sit in front of their TV, drinking beers, watching football games and watching America's Got Talent. You think you could dance, you know, and The Voice and all these things, you know, that just, you know,
American Idol.
Yeah. And they still want to be slaves and work for corporations that, you know, tax them to death and let them have a little bit of free time on the weekends if they're lucky. I mean, it's just like, people need to wake up. They really, really, really do.
You know? And they still believe in government authority.
Yeah, that's true.
They still believe corporates and banks are there to help them.
And they don't realize that the Federal Reserve is not, you know, it's not owned by the government. It's a private entity, that the IRS was created by the Federal Reserve to collect their monies. I mean, we're slaves. We're slaves, and slaves need to like break those chains and say enough is enough.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I would rather have beer watching you guys, LOL. Yeah.
Well,
I guess there's football going on, but
yeah,
we don't care.
We don't watch.
We don't.
Anyway, we're going to go with the manifestation moment today. This evening, we've been. It's we like to call it ministry, and ministry, in my opinion, is where we all share and we grow together as a human family. A church, to me, it's a building that is created to indoctrinate, to collect money, and to disrupt souls. Anyway, I want you all to breathe. Close your eyes if you so wish. Sit in a comfortable position. I want you to just let go and just breathe. Breathe and find that point in your body where the breath and your heartbeat becomes one. Breathe and sense your heartbeat. Try to align these two together. I want you to eliminate the thought, any thought, that wants to enter the realm of the now. I want you to set it aside gently. As we breathe and align our heartbeat, and as we teach ourselves to focus on the breath in your heartbeat. As we breathe, let us imagine a white light covering our body. Not a full white light, but a yellow light, a light of love, a light that feels warm and good inside. This light heals and corrects our misalignment. It corrects everything that's out of alignment in your body, realigning our heartbeat with our breath. Breathe in through your nose and out your mouth. Feel your tummy go out and go back in. Feel that heartbeat that allows you to live and be present. The light comes to us from inside our very core. It's yours. It's not tainted with any outside force. It belongs to you. You are the owner of this light. It is safe. It quenches your thirst as well as your hunger. It manifests all that you need to see and to heal. It speaks to you not by words, but by its essence of the light that it is. You feel her, sense her, and know her. She is the light that has guided you since the day you were born. Sometimes you don't even know that she's there, but she is there guiding you. Accept her gift and her healing. She is yours, belongs to no one but you. Source gave you that light in hopes that you become aware of her. Breathe and connect to your heartbeat, which creates the inner light in you. Allowing the breath to go in through your nose and out your mouth, and letting your stomach expand in and out. Filling your lungs full of air. Breathe as you know your heart and feel the beat. The two connected create the healing light within. What you do with this is yours and yours alone. No one can duplicate it or explain it. Just know it and sense it. Breathe in and out. Let the healing heal you from head to toe. You are the master of the universe. You are your healer. You are your own guru. Remember this. Namaste. These just come to me, you know.
They're really good.
I'm putting all these together, by the way, so eventually I'll probably just have a manifestation moment book. I'll put it in either in the blog or something or to share.
Wow, feel that. She said, beautiful. Much love, wisdom, and peace, Emily. We are worthy of so much more than this world.
Yes.
Damien Joy. No man apocalypse manifests love. Audiobook.
Audiobook, yeah. That would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could read them all and put them in an audiobook. They just come like, we created the show early afternoon, and then it was just like, let me create a manifestation moment, and I just download and it just comes down. So
awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you. God is rare, and she and his son, his daughter, and Blight, the flame. He is the all father, father time, and she is the autumn of time. She ends this. Love you both. Be hugs and kisses. Big hugs and kisses to you, Phoenix. And the peace of Christ is in us. Wow. Totally.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like that flame over there on our fireplace.
Yeah.
It just glows.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, tomorrow's New Year's Eve. We have another show lined up for tomorrow. And tomorrow is New Year, New World, New Heart. The actual topic for tomorrow is we're going to discuss the events that happened in the 2018. Have you guys brainstorm and share the events, and then and do a love kindness meditation to cultivate resilience to bring in the new year. And then a little controversial topic, but I think it's a very healing protocol or healing thing. Is we're going to talk a little bit about urine therapy, and I think it's something I've been using for years. And I think it's very helpful. It's helped me a lot with my awakening, with a lot of healing, and in my body, since I put many years of hormones in my body, and I wake up every morning. That's the first thing I do is my urine therapy. I use it on my body for pain, my hair. It's all sorts of great stuff that we'll talk about and share with you. And then we're going to have a topic that's there is no such thing as healthy oils. We want to bring in the new year and kind of talk about healthy eating. And let's see what else we got. Our transgender corner, alternative choices.
She said it's a nah, I know it, and I'm not doing it.
It's up to, I mean, a lot of people fear it and they think that it's, urine is the most
again
distilled type of, like more cleansing. People think it's your poo-poo you have to worry about. Your urine is very clean.
I know, but like you were talking to your sister about it.
Oh, I know. Some people can get it. Some people don't get it. And that's fine. It's,
or just don't want to get
And then our manifestation moment for tomorrow is going to be based on envy and jealousy, how to get rid of that and manifest. So
Bill says, love you all. Love you too, Bill.
Love you too. Thank you for joining. Thank you. She said, thank you, Phoenix. Thank you, Damien. Gosh, thank everyone.
Can you put on your Bluetooth?
Can I put on my
when
Bluetooth?
Your music song comes on.
Okay, so
you can have a good version of it.
Sure, connect. She said, "Nah." It heals a lot of things. People don't realize that our urine has stem cells, and I'll leave that for tomorrow to talk a little bit more about it. But I know it's hard for people to deal with it. But usually people have a hard time, like cough syrup. And any kind of medicine, that people take. Usually medicine is not, and it has side effects.
Yeah.
This is your own natural. The Bible even talks about it. I'll probably find the verse in the Bible that says about drinking from your own cern, is it?
I guess.
Something like that.
Remember. Urine is sterile, but I don't know about drinking it.
I've been drinking it for 2 years now. And it's, kept a lot of, because of being on hormone for so many years, it's kept me very healthy. And it's, my blood work, the doctor freaked out how well my blood worked. And I told her what I did. And she was like, keep doing what you're doing. And it really.
And I was doing it for a time and then I stopped. But there are definite benefits.
Definitely.
To it.
A lot of good benefits. And like to share, share.
And it depends on what you're eating too.
Yeah. If you're eating protein, animal products, and drinking alcohol, then you don't want to do it because then your urine is not going to be.
Yeah.
It's like your urine tells you how your health is.
Basically.
I mean,
it's like your pH level.
Yeah, it tells you exactly how when you look at your urine, it looks kind of brownish and stinky, then you're not healthy. Then you need to do something so when you start eating healthy and start really doing healthy things, you can see it in your urine. You can smell it. It doesn't smell like anything.
No, it doesn't. It's like, it actually takes on the look of like ginger ale.
Yeah.
It has that same
healthy urine.
Right. But it takes on that look of like a silvery kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
it does.
And it actually has like,
and it's
mineral water. It's like mineral water.
Yeah. Because it's distilled. But again, you have to be, you have to be eating a good diet. And I truly believe one of the reasons I want to share this, if and when the bird thing hits the fan and you don't have water, you don't have food, it is going to keep you alive and it's going to keep you healthy and it's going to give you the minerals that you need. So one of the reasons I'm sharing it is because we don't know what 2019 brings. We don't know what's going to happen. And if I could help my human family survive, teach them what they, survival skills, then, I've done something, because I want every single one of you, and to be healthy,
She said
asparagus.
I'll wait till I need to drink. Oh, wait. That's what Damien said. I'll wait till I need to drink it. Not by choice, but hey, to each their own.
Exactly. Mind's clear. That's good. Yeah, only few of us can smell asparagus. Yeah, asparagus does have a pretty strong smell. It does. And certain vitamins that you drink and stuff like that. That's how a dog does it. Okay? And in biblical times, we did that. We did that to cleanse ourselves. I mean, this is an ancient practice. This has been done ancient times. But, again, fear factor, but.
Well, what if we told you that this practice is actually like the fountain of youth?
Yeah.
And we're not doctors, obviously.
And I'm not recommending
it, but,
do the research and
if you put a drop of urine on like a cut,
wash your hair with it. It's got all sorts of purpose, not just for your own
stem cells in it,
which allows stem cells, your own fabricated. It's your own blueprint to your health.
It is.
Like I said, I've been doing it for two plus years.
They say that if a person gets stung by a
rattlesnake,
it's
the best anti-venom ever.
It's the best anti-venom because the body knows what it needs.
Oh, Jeffrey does it too.
What's that?
Jeffrey does it. Jeffrey.
Oh, really? Yeah. Darty does it?
I'm sure he learned that from Campbell, probably.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been doing it for almost 2.5 years now, and I swear by it. It's like my normal routine. First piss in the morning.
I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid of it. I could do it whenever I wanted to.
Yeah.
I just haven't lately.
Yeah. It's like, to me, it keeps you young. It keeps you, sharp in your head and feeling good. And if you have pain, it's a great pain reliever. It's an anti-inflammatory. It's good stuff. But we'll talk more about it tomorrow.
To me, it's like eating vegetables. There's people that I remember having this conversation with my friend from high school, and he was like, we were at his home with his wife, and his wife was like, I don't eat vegetables because they're too like, I don't know, the flavor of it. It's just the texture. And it's like, when we're little kids, we can have these little discussions about why we don't like something. But if we know that something's going to be good for us and that we need to eat them, then we just do it.
You learned that from me because you hated vegetables. We're learning to eat vegetable. You're not two anymore.
When do you think your first Hail Satan is going to be?
What do you mean by Hail Satan?
We don't serve anyone.
We don't serve the higher self. That's pretty much.
We don't even believe in Satan, actually.
It's
the
God of the Bible.
I believe we all have a Christ consciousness and a Satan consciousness. And we can choose which one we want to operate in.
Exactly.
That's how simple it is for me.
Yeah.
So
So for that note, so anyway, we're going to end the show with one of songs that I wrote back, gosh, in my awakening. I probably wrote this one in 2009. And my beautiful wife was an amazing videographer. Did the little video. And this was actually when we just barely met. We weren't even married yet.
No,
you were living in a hotel that was for handicap because you had just had your accident, and I was taking care of you. And I needed a handicap bathroom so I could bathe you and clean your booty and all that stuff that I did.
And I just picked up the camera. It was like probably the first thing I did.
Mm-hmm.
And you played really well. It was a good song.
It's called, God, what is it called? The song called again? I forget. I have so many. Love is everywhere. So, guys, we love you. But remember to always love yourselves too. And love each other, because that's important. Love, love, love. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. And any of you that have any questions, concerns, email us transitionradioshow@gmail.com. Click the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Share it with the rest. If you enjoy our work, any little bit helps. And the PayPal that is in the description. It's actually on the YouTube when you go to the About. It's up there, or our blog. You don't have to. We're not asking if you feel so inclined. So anyway,
Sandra says hello.
Hello.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi.
We're just about
ending with our song. And Stephen goes, just checking. I don't think I have a
conscience that either identifies my name and form or transcends
it.
Yeah. So, I mean, we are also on Discord. You guys have an open invitation. It's in the description of our shows. If you want to continue
conversation and ask questions, health questions. I'm a certified nutrition consultant, master personal trainer, and occupational therapist. And
Sandra said, I'm always late to the party.
Sorry, Sandra. Sorry. We'll be here tomorrow again at 5:30. But you could rewind, and a lot of great information in the show. Love you guys. Remember to love yourselves too. And here we go.
All right.
Boop, boop. Pick a rose from a garden. Watch it grow from above. Give it love and understanding, and watch it thrive. Love me, love you, love me. Love is everywhere. Love me, love you, love me. Love is everywhere. Don't you know that we are creatures who need love and tender care? Let's unite brothers and sisters. Love's everywhere. Love me, love me, love me. Love is everywhere. Love me, love me, love me. Love is everywhere. In your eyes, I see that nothing. Sounds of echoes in the air. You want one and everlasting. Love's everywhere. Love me, love me, love me. Love is everywhere. Love me, love me, love me. Love is everywhere. Love is everywhere. everywhere, all around.